like button.
You're watching the Y2K Show, where they play my kind of videos.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nub. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lights of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will not...
Okay, tonight we're going to cook some fried chicken, some peas, and we're going to put some mac and cheese with it. So I mixed up the flavor that I want for the chicken batter. I got the grease over here ready. I got the butter ready to melt. And I got the water ready to go for the mac and cheese. So I'll be right back. Dinner is served. Mac and cheese, peas with garlic, and fried chicken. That's all you need. Thank you for watching. So look, there we have our biscuits, our dinner rolls, and then we have our stroganoff fries with it. I'm fumbling and bumbling, but look at that. Stroganoff, made at home by Papa Will. I want you to like, subscribe, share, and leave a little something on my Cash App, and leave a comment in the replay to make sure you don't miss none of this show. Big Papa Will. Leave a comment in the replay to make sure you don't miss none of this show. Big Papa Will. Leave a comment. Oh my God! Oh my God!
these ideas for these fictional universes and comic books and video games. There's always a foundational truth behind all this. There is no rigid definition of a superpower. In popular culture, it may be used to describe anything from minimal exaggeration of normal human traits to magic, flight, super strength, projection of destructive energy beams and force fields, invulnerability, telepathy, telekinesis, teleportation, super speed, or weather control. So that's interesting because it says here weather control, right? We heard earlier, and we're going to hear again that Jaguar, one of his attributes, the Jaguar god, was to control the rain, or that he was considered the rain god, right? So weather control. Of relating to an order of existence beyond the visible, observable universe, especially of or relating to God or God, demigod, spirit, or devil. All right, so supernatural is related to God. Hawa, supernatural, of relating to or being above or beyond what is natural, unexplainable by natural law or phenomena, abnormal, of pertaining to, characteristic of, or attributed to God or a deity. So, speaking about a god or a deity, in this book called Native American Gardening Stories, Projects, and Recipes for Families by Michael J. Caduto and Joseph Bruchak, it says Wakanda, Wakanda, Arikara, from the Arikara tribe, which means the great mystery, the creator, again, the creator, or God, or a deity, the creator, Wakanda. Alright, so before we get into the whole name of Wakanda and the location and everything, um, let's talk about Wakanda and Marvel. So it says Wakanda is a fictional African nation appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. It is the most prominent of several native African nations and home to the superhero Black Panther. Wakanda first appeared in Fantastic Four, issue number 52, July 1966. Remember that, July 1966. And was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Hijack, right? They probably stole it from somebody who basically created a story of traditions of America, Native American. So we're going to get into that more. All right. And again, it says fictional African. So it doesn't exist in Africa. It's a fictional place in Africa because it's not from Africa. I'm going to show you where it's really from. So one of their main gods in Wakanda again is Bast, right? It says here, Bast, a warrior shaman. Again, shaman. We know that the Mayas and the Aztecs had shamans and they used the jaguar very symbolically with their shamanistic rituals, remember? A warrior shaman received a vision from the panther goddess Bast, who led him to the heart-shaped herb, a plant that granted him superhuman strength, speed, and instincts. Again, superhuman strength, supernatural, a deity, remember? The warrior became king and the first Black Panther, the protector of Wakanda. Again, so this panther goddess, right, is basically a Black Panther, just like the warrior who became a Black Panther slash jaguar, right? Because we know the gene is dominant amongst jaguars, and we're talking about ancient times. We're definitely talking about America, and we're talking about jaguars, where the gene is dominant. All right. So bass, this is what bass looks like. So bass is basically a feline uh, panther goddess, right, from ancient Egypt. It says here, Bast is the Heliopolitan god of panthers and the patron deity of Wakanda in the Marvel Universe. The character first appeared as a totem in Fantastic Four, issue number 52, again, in 1966, but does not physically appear until Black Panther number 5 in 1999. It says, within the context of the stories, Bast is similar to the Egyptian goddess of the same name. And it says Bastet or Bast was a goddess of ancient Egyptian religion, worshipped as early as the Second Dynasty. As Bast, she was the goddess of warfare in Lower Egypt. So she was the goddess of warfare, a warrior, and she dressed and she looked like a panther or a jaguar, right? Jaguar warrior. And we're gonna get into the Amazonians later on, but a female warrior, right? And she's a panther. So again, we're talking about ancient Egypt. We know we're talking about America. no ancient Egypt, the true old world was over here. Alright, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the marble story, how it correlates a little bit, well, not a little bit, actually a lot, with what we're reading in the traditions of the Native Americans in America. Again, according to Wakandan legend, when the five tribes fought for control of Wakanda, a warrior shaman received a vision from Bast, which led him to the heart-shaped herb, granting him the power to become king and the first Black Panther. In Wakandan mythology, when the soul of a man reaches the afterlife, it is brought by the goddess Bast and Sekhmet to a mythical green valley where it can run freely in peace for all eternity. Man, Past and Present by A. H. Keene and A. Hingston Quiggin, A. C. Haddon. It says here, religious conceptions were based on a belief in Wakanda, or Manito, an all-pervading spirit force. A spirit force, Wakanda, supernatural, right? Supernatural. Whose cult involved various shamanistic ceremonials consisting of dancing, chanting, feasting, and fasting. You hear this? Most distinctive of these is the sun dance, practiced by almost all the tribes of the plains except the Comanche. It is an annual festival lasting several days in honor of the sun for the purpose of obtaining abundant produce throughout the year. And in small print here it says, Wakanda is the term employed when the power believed to animate all natural forms is spoken to or spoken of in supplications or rituals. Again, supernatural, superpowers, magic, shaman. By many tribes of the Sioux family of the Sioux. Manito is the Algonquin name for the mysterious and unknown potencies and powers of life and of the universe. Wakanda, says Miss Fletcher, is difficult to define, for exact terms change it from its native, uncrystallized condition to something foreign to aboriginal thought. Wakanda is an aboriginal thought. You hear that? Vague as the concept seems to be, vague as the concept seems to be to one of another race, to the Indian it is as real and as mysterious as starry night or the flush of the coming day. Handbook of American Indians. And in the same book, I just wanted to let you know who we were talking about mostly in this book, and it's the Dakota. It says here the Dakota or the Sioux are universally conceded to be of the highest type, physically, mentally, and probably morally, of any of the Western tribes. Their bravery has never been questioned by white or Indian, and they conquered or drove out every rival except the Ojibwe. So they were very warlike, right? Warriors. Their physical characteristics are as follows. Dark skin. Again, the Dakota's physical characteristics are as follows. Dark skin. Again, Black Panther. We're talking about the Americas. Jaguar. Warriors. Wakanda. Wakanda. Dark skin faintly tinged with red. Copper colored tribes found here by the Europeans, right? Facial features more strongly marked than those of the Pacific Coast Indians. Nose and lower jaw particularly prominent and heavy. Head generally mesocephalic and not artificially deformed. They are a free and dominant race of hunters and warriors, necessarily strong and active. Their weapons of stone, wood, bone, and horn are tomahawk, club, flint, knife, and bow and arrow. Now returning to the fictional Wakanda, right? And Wikipedia says the etymology. There are several theories for the Wakanda name. The name may be inspired by a god called Wakanda. So we just heard, right? Wakanda, Arikara called is the creator, which is God. And also the Dakota also see Wakanda as basically God as well. And we're going to read a little bit more about that later. So again, this is inspired by a god called Wakanda from the Native Americans from the Great Plains, right? We know that's true. Or Wakanda's a fictional African tribe, right? So which one do you think that it's from? The real history or from the fictional history? So again, in Wakanda, in the Panther cult, Bast, the Panther goddess, based on Bastet, the ancient Egyptian deity, right? Remember, deity, supernatural, superpowers, is the primary deity of Wakanda. After the vibranium meter fell, on the number of Wakandians were painfully mutated into demon spirits and began attacking their fellow Wakandans. T'Challa, ancestor of Bashinga, became the first Black Panther and closed the vibranium mount to outsiders. Mount. Where do you find a lot of mounds? Earthen mounds, pyramid mounds in the Americas, right? Forming a religious order that guarded the mound and fought to keep the demon spirits from spreading across the kingdom. The Black Panther is a ceremonial and religious title. It's a title. The Black Panther, Black Jaguar, right? Jaguar warrior. A title given to the chief of the Panther tribe, the chiefs. As part of the cult's ceremonies, a chosen Black Panther is entitled to use of a heart-shaped herb. The herb enhances the physical attributes of the person who consumes it to near superhuman levels, similar to the super soldier serum. So basically, they become a god, supernatural strength, super ability, superhuman levels, right? A deity, it becomes like a god, the Jaguar god. The Sacred Wisdom of the Native American by Larry J. Zimmerman. It says here, the rite of the Omaha included most of these elements. It was a 4-day fasting rite undergone by all Omaha adolescent males, fasting, and by any females who so desired. The name refers to the trance experienced by the youths in the course of the rite. In it, they became oblivious to the outside world and conscious only of the inner being. The rite recreated the Omaha origin myth, the origin myth, right? The boy would find an isolated spot where he would spread clay over his head in honor of the animals who went to the bottom of a great body of water and brought up mud from which earth was created. All right, so remember in Wakanda, when he drank the herb, he had to lay down and get covered by the sand or that dirt, whatever it was. And as this ritual they do here, the Omaha, recreating the Omaha origin, just like Wakanda is recreating what happened in the beginning with Shinga, right when he first took the vibranium, when the meteor fell and the panther showed him the herb, they recreated to become the Black Panther, just like they do here. And the adolescent males, right? They go into this trance, right? Just like in Wakanda, he goes into a trance, and it says here that he prayed to Wakanda, the mysterious power that controlled all of nature. So this Omaha tradition says that the young boys, when they're in this trance, they would pray to Wakanda, the mysterious power that controlled all of nature. The boy filled his mind with thoughts of health, successful hunting and war, and a happy long life, but it was taboo to ask for special favors. Wakanda, it was believed, would respond with a vision or a dream that would include a sacred song. So Wakanda, right, responded with a vision, just like when T'Challa goes into the trance, he has a vision, right? He's with his elders, right? So it says that Wakanda here would respond with a vision or a dream that would include a sacred song. Dreams of hawks, elks, or thunder might bring great fortune. The sun was a good luck charm connecting the boy to the powers of the universe. He could use it throughout his lifetime as a way to call for help from guardian spirits in time of crisis. Right? So he can call help from guardian spirits, as Wakanda told him. These superpowers. The Native American Book of Knowledge, Easy Read Edition by White Deer of Autumn says, in the real beginning, Wakanda made the people, men, women, and children. After they were made, Wakanda said, go. So the people took all they had, carried their children, and started toward the setting sun. From an Omaha Indian creation, again, Wakanda. Historical Dictionary of Native American Movements by Todd Leahy, Nathan Wilson. Wakanda, Wakanda is the Lakota belief similar to the Iroquois Orenda and the Algonquin Manitou. It is a supernatural force that permeates the universe. Again, supernatural, a deity, God, right? Supernatural, Wakanda. Just like Marvel superheroes have supernatural powers. So, talking about supernatural forces and shamanistic magic, it says here in the surviving Olmec archaeological record, jaguars are rarely portrayed naturalistically, but rather with a combination of a feline and human characteristics. Again, so these jaguars and Olmec archaeological records, they're hardly seen in their natural form as an animal, but rather combined as a human. So like a human jaguar, or like the Black Panther of Marvel, right? These feline anthropomorphic figures may range from a human figure with slight jaguar characteristics to depictions of shamanistic transformations in the so-called transformative pose, kneeling with hands on knees, to figures that are nearly completely feline. So they're talking about we're gonna get into it is basically the were jaguars, or how they transform like a werewolf. They have the were jaguars. So it's saying that these shamanistic priests, right, were considered to transform into jaguars, or these gods they worship, right? One of the most prominent, distinctive, and enigmatic Olmec designs to appear in the archaeological record has been the were-jaguar. The so-called were-jaguar motifs runs through much of Olmec art, from the smallest jade to some of the largest basalt statues. The motif is found inscribed on celts, votives, axes, masks, and on elongated man figurines, also termed somewhat more neutrally the composite anthropomorph or the rain baby. The were-jaguar's body is shown is baby or childlike. Its eyes are almond-shaped or occasionally slit-like. Its nose is human. Its downturned mouth is open, as if in the mid-squall. The upper lip is everted and toothless gums are often visible. Olmec motifs associated with the were-jaguars include a cleft on the head of or headdresses, a headband, and cross bars. Transformation figures. Many other Olmec figurines combine human and animal features, including these were-eagle left, although figurines showing such combinations of features are generally termed transformation figures. Some research argue that they represent humans in animal masks or animal suits, while others state that they likely represent shamans. This transformation figure displays bat-like features. Most common, however, is the jaguar transformation figure, which show a wide variety of styles ranging from human-like figurines to those that are almost completely jaguar, and several where the subject appears to be in a stage of transformation. Continuing, it says one early team that was identified was the half-man, half-jaguar form known as the were-jaguars. The were-jaguar is most easily identified by its human-like form combined with a downturned mouth, an elongated feline snout, and a cleft head. This is exemplified by the basalt head found in the Museo Regional de Antropología at Villahermosa, which clearly marries the head of a man with the mouth of a jaguar. This example also features an X-shaped cross in its right eye, which is a common glyph in Olmec art. Again, so it's telling us that the X is a common glyph in Olmec art. Is that an X or a cross? Right? Is that Paleo-Hebrew they're talking about? Is that the top? The meaning of the X is not entirely clear, so they don't know what the X means. We have to dig on that, as it is used in many different contexts and research hasn't settled on a single meaning. So there we go. They don't know anything. That looks like a cross. Many Native American tribes and nations use it. The crossing, right? The crossing of the lines of the energy points. The mark, right? X marks the spot, a monument, a holy site, a sacred site, the top. All right. Here it would seem most obvious that it symbolizes blindness or death of the eye. However, it could mean the complete opposite, for the X is often seen as the attire of the were-jaguar. So X is often seen as the attire of the were-jaguar, an X or a cross, and other deities where it is believed to symbolize the underworld, with the jaguar having been revered for its nocturnal prowess. It may be the X signifies the ability to see in the darkness of the underworld. Maybe, huh? All right, so can we link humans transforming to panthers, right? Black panthers or jaguars, and Native American mythology and religion and tradition? Yes, we can. Just like in the story of Marvel, the Black Panther, a human becoming a panther. And again, Native American symbols and meanings for the Black Panther center on jaguars, a word that roughly means kills in one blow, just like the Black Panther can kill with one single blow. This creature's original habitat was in North America, but it slowly moved southward, which is why we find stories in Mexico and Peru. Both these regions uplifted jaguar as a god. Both Mexico and Peru, where you find all these pyramids and ancient civilizations of America, uplifted the jaguar as a god, a deity, right? Supernatural, often associated with the underworld. And this divine cat played an integral role in coronation rites. All right, this panther, right, which centers on the jaguar, played an integral role in coronation rites, just like in the movie Black Panther. Wakanda, Wakanda, a term employed by the Omaha, Ponca, Osage, Quapaw, Kansas, Otto, Missouri, and Iowa, Awa, tribes of the Sioux family, when the power believed to animate all natural forms is spoken to or spoken of in supplications or rituals. The dialects of the first five tribes are closely related. The Omaha and Ponca speak practically alike. The Osage, the Quapaw, and Kansa differ somewhat from the former in pronunciation, while the Otto, Missouri, and Iowa have so far changed their speech as to be unintelligible to the others. The word Wakanda, spelled Wakanda by Riggs in his Dakota dictionary, is given by him as a verb signifying to reckon as holy or sacred, to worship. All right, so again, Wakanda can mean in Dakota dictionary as sacred or to worship or holy. We're going to hear about the Huacas of Peru, South America, and how they are considered sacred monuments, rocks, even pyramids or places. Waka, Wakanda. Continuing, it says the noun is Wakan and is defined as a spirit, something consecrated. So Wakan, Waka, Wakan, Waka. Again, defined as a spirit, something consecrated. The same authority gives the meaning of Wakan as an adjective as spiritual, sacred, consecrated, wonderful, incomprehensible, mysterious. Or, in other words, supernatural, deity. Offensive or not, Black Panther, fictional Wakanda, translates as God to some tribes. But what do the members of the Osage Nation say regarding this? According to Shannon Shaw Duty, a member of the Osage Nation and editor of the Osage News, the Marvel spelling is different, but the pronunciation is the same. I have not yet seen the film, but I have read some reviews in that they spell it Wakanda. In our Osage language, the word for God is Wakonta or Wakonda. I have been told how they pronounce it in the film is exactly how we pronounce it. So in essence, it is the same word, said Sean Duty. Native American Mythology by Hartley Burr Alexander. Visible nature seems to have mirrored to the Omaha mind the ever-present activities of the invisible and mysterious Wakanda, and to have been an instructor in both religion and ethics. Natural phenomena serve to enforce ethics. Old men have said Wakanda causes day to follow night without variation and summer to follow winter. We can depend on these regular changes and can order our lives by them. In this way, Wakanda teaches us that our words and our acts must be truthful, so that we may live in peace and happiness with one another. Our fathers thought about these things and observed the acts of Wakanda, and their words have come down to us. All experiences in life were believed to be directed by Wakanda, a belief that gave rise to a kind of fatalism. In the face of calamity, the thought, this is ordered by Wakanda, put a stop to any form of rebellion against the trouble and often to any effort to overcome it. An old man said, tears were made by Wakanda as a relief to our human nature. Wakanda made joy, and he also made tears. An aged man standing in the presence of death said, from my earliest years I remember the sound of weeping. I have heard it all my life, and shall hear it until I die. There will be pardon as long as man lives on the earth. Wakanda has willed it to be so. So again, Native American legends, Wakanda, Wakanda. Tribal affiliation, the Omaha, the Ponca, the Saji, and we saw the other ones also as well who were affiliated with Wakanda. The alternate spellings, Wakanda, Wakanta, Wakuda, Wakonda, or Wakonta. In pronunciation, Wakanda, just like in the movie. Alright, it says here Native American creator, deity, right? Supernatural, Hawa, God, high God. Related figures in other tribes, Wakan Tanka, the Sioux, Earthmaker, Ho Shunk, Kichi Manitou, Ojibwe. Wakanda is the great creator, power of the Osage, Omaha, and Ponca tribes. Wakanda is abstract, omnipresent, creative force who is never personified in traditional Siouan legends, and in fact did not even have a gender before the introduction of English with its gender-specific pronunciation. So they didn't have no idols to Wakanda, creator, omnipresent, the most high, creative force. All right, so I just wanted to show you.
All right, I just wanted to. I meant to get this out when they were doing the release of the premiere of the Black Panther. I remember when the Black Panther came out in Marvel comic books. I had no idea that Wakanda was a city in the United States. That indigenous people, like a lot of us Swarty, Native American uh, descendants are, had no idea. I meant to get this out when they were doing the release of the premiere of the Black Panther. I remember when the Black Panther came out in Marvel comic books. I had no idea that Wakanda was a city in the United States. That indigenous people, like a lot of us Swarty, Native American uh, descendants are, and no idea what it is. I meant to get this out when they were doing the release of the premiere of the Black Panther. I remember when the Black Panther came out in the Marvel comic books. I had no idea that Wakanda was a city in the United States. That indigenous people, like a lot of us, Native American uh, decisions are, I need to get this out when we were doing the release of the premiere the podcast. I remember when the Black Panther came out. I had no idea. I don't know how I'm supposed to know that I'm talking, but just to let you know, I'm talking. Okay. So, yeah, I wanted to make it aware to everybody that in this movie, and that's why I really love Stan Lee because there's there's history within his comics of each of his characters. Like if you could ever get a comic of the original Black Panther, you'll see that in the '60s he is part of the origin of the original Black Panther group out of Louisiana. You know, I'm from the North, and we were called Black Liberation Army soldiers. But basically, we converted to be more like the Southern Black Panther movement. Nothing like the West Coast Black Panthers, though. Nothing like them. But anyway, in that comic book, it shows him fighting uh, Nazis in America and also Klan. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the war against the Klan. And that song that you hear that says the revolution will not be televised, well, that is so true because it wasn't. And as a young soldier, we were brought up to understand, learn everything you can about the white man, integrate with him, marry his women, whatever you did, raise mixed children like it always was, you know, and be a part of the peaceful movement. Because if we took up arms against, it's too late. If we were to try to take up arms against the modern society, we would have more black people killing us as members of the military. It would go all the way back to the Civil War where we were killing each other because we wasn't really slaves, but you know, we were in the North, we was in the South as free natives, and you would be surprised. I'm gonna bring that one up in a bit about we were not fighting for freedom in the Civil War. We were fighting to maintain our control, swarthy people of this continent, and we lost. And then everything flipped to white. I don't know why. Maybe to soften the hearts of black people if we didn't know that we were our own worst enemy. But as we walk up and down the streets today, Nate, you can relate to this. You know what I'm talking about right here. You know, so wait a minute. Nate says, Queen, it's raining here too. I'm in New York. Maybe I'm too far south, but anyway. Hey, what's going on, realist one? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is we can see that now still in our own society, and we don't even know why. But it started in the beginning of the settling of this continent. And I finally figured out and read what it means when they use the word race in reference to swarthy people. And as I've done my study and I've watched a lot of videos from wow, this guy here is incredible. I mean, he did all the research that I never would have done. You know, I'm sorry. I did a lot of research about our history, but this guy is telling us stuff that I would have had no idea about. And Nate, if I have to go on again tonight while you're at work, hey man, just let me know. But anyway, for right now, what I'm getting at is this. We were the indigenous people of this continent, because you got to include all of the Americas and all the islands and everything. Because, you know, when you say America, you're talking about North and South America, period. So that's why we're called the United States, to separate ourselves. Well, to them to separate themselves. Because we was conquered and our lands were all taken, wiped out people. There is history where natives, and that's the next video I'm gonna get into, where natives, us natives, indigenous people, were taken by European swarties, kidnapped and hauled off and sold into slavery for the sugarcane fields and the cabbage fields in uh, the islands, Caribbeans. My grandmother, she always told me that she was West Indies. So that's how I try to separate West Indies from Jamaica, okay? And we fought on both sides of the Civil War. We fought on both sides of the War of 1812. We fought on both sides of the War of the Revolution. You know, when most of the slaves in this country were white, they were indentured servants and criminals that had been shot out of Europe, Western Europe, namely Britain, and sent here for indentured servitude. And while they was here, they passed like a law that took that away. It made all indentured servants slaves, and so that's what the misnomer about the proclamation, um, Emancipation Proclamation was not about freeing slavery. It was about ensuring that all white people in this country could not be taken into slavery. That's what the conflict was, is to prevent from all the indigenous white people or any other European white people that could be kidnapped and stolen from any European country and brought here would become slaves for life. And they didn't want the white people to fall into imminent danger of being enslaved forever here. And that's where we had that war, and they won. And then after the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, we abolished slavery. And for those of you that aren't aware, Abraham Lincoln and George Washington both, and everybody in between the two of them, were all swarty. They were all swarties. And if you look up the word swarty, it's spelled Swarthy. Swarty. And if you look it up, along with you'll show you in there also the word dub, D-U-B, Dublin means black. So when you talk to some white Irish people, remember, though their ancestors are the same as Irish. So get them to understand you ain't that white. Even if you was a goth, that consider yourself being Irish, you were originally a Middle Asian swarty. And as white people became birthed by black people and started, interracially creating down line. That's how the white man was created. So Nate's got to go to work later on. What's up with you, realist one? How you feeling today? Quitting the whole damn thing was the first one. Now the second one on board, because the first one on board was You Knew was the first one on board. He beat me here, and I've been here a couple of times today. But anyway, I'm glad that we're all here. Just make sure you all press that like button. I know each one of you guys already has your notification bell rung. That's why you're all here. I appreciate y'all. If there's anything you want to talk about, just let me know. I'll drop that link, let you come on up here. Nate, real, I don't know if you're a panelist type of person, but in here, if you have a wrench, it's because you're either a content producer or you was here in the beginning when I first started this channel, and that entitles you to coming up on the panel. And I tell you why that is, because so many times you can accidentally wind up with somebody up in your panel that don't belong there, and you wonder how that guy he didn't He didn't do nothing. He didn't press that like button. He didn't say salute to the panel. He didn't say nothing in the chat. And he's just up in here wanting to talk. Well, realers, Nate, we're all content providers. You know what that is. That's a troll. And them trolls got them ways. But you cannot accept a troll up here in your panel if you don't want to. Because I don't foresee letting anybody up in here unless you're somebody I really love and like getting up in here on my panel that's not wearing one of them wrenches. Like people say, man, what's that wrench good for, man? That wrench don't mean shit to me. Well, over here, it means keep your eye out for trolls, or people trying to pop me with some kind of porn sites. I got enough half-naked women of my own that I can show y'all all day and night. We don't need none of them. And anybody come in here that's not a mod, challenge them. Now I know today none of my actual mods are here. I got realtors. Make sure you drop your link if that's what you do. I see you're a big content producer, man, and I don't know about Nate, man, but I need to be over on your site at your shows. You know what they call it, clout chasing. I realize what clout chasing means is going to other people's sites and meeting their people and getting them to understand your personality, or you get up on their panel and you get to speak to other people's chats, and they can decide, well, let me go see what Papa Will has on his channel, and they'll go look you up and go, oh man, Papa Will got some shit going on over here. Boy, he's been on, man, Papa Will been on YouTube since YouTube started. Oh man, let me sub up to you to Papa Will. And that's how you expect to grow, because once all you guys are signed up, there's nothing left but for me to come, because I'm subbed up to you realers. I heard that. Well, this is a simple one, this is like a growth channel. Yeah, I'm starting to oh wow. Did I get any tags in here? Show more. Because you're right, real. Okay, I didn't get it here. But you're right. Uh somebody keeps trying to tell me that tags are of no value, hashtag and shit. But I don't believe that. I think that hashtagging, like you were saying, is what got me here on my regular YouTube channel is by hashtagging. And so I just kind of missed it today, but I think I kind of missed it building my shorts today too. So I really appreciate you really hipping me and reminding me that I'm coming up short. Oh yeah, the YouTube studio. Yeah, I'm seeing that too. It creates that natural traffic from my little short videos and my shorts. I tell you honestly, if you look at my channel, you'll see I have about 20,000 views worth of videos that, man, if I knew how to find the people that had viewed those videos, man, and could send them a link every time I have a show. Because if you liked my videos, you would like my podcast, right? Okay, the studio. Let me go over here real quick. Let me put some music on, real, and let me go over here and look at. Let me see. You saying, trust me, the studio. Go look at my studio. Okay. Let me put some music on here for a while, y'all, and I'm gonna go over here and look in my studio. Okay. Don't go nowhere.
You're watching the Y2K show, where they play my kind of videos.
Dang, Johnny. So cool. I'm phenomenal, your mama knows, so I'ma go and get it. Did the beat, so you know I got to spit it. You got the look of a diva. Y'all got it all now. Follow the procedure. I need you to leave your mind, but bring your body. Ain't nothing but an east side party. You know it's cracking like that. Why you acting like that? Hand me your glass. Let me pour you some yak. That's landy. Now if you act right, by the end of the night, you get the can with the Southside boss. Twist that spinach. Put fire on the end of the bitch. Now let me hit it. Baby, you cute, but you need to be fucking with Snoop. Come through and see what it do. Let's go.
And she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Steve night. Gonna get her in tight. Oh yes, it's Steve night. And she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Steve night. Gonna get her in tight. Phenomenal, abdominal pressure with the follow through. Relax for a second, let me tell you what we ought to do. We start with the top, then move it to the bottom. Let your dress hit the floor like your panties need dropping. Damn, you look good, girl, rocking the set, getting it wet. Correct me if I'm wrong so I can place my bet. This is the time of the night when your girls join in, cause I'm the type of motherfucker fucking you and your friend. East coast to the west side, doing it all night. Take you one at a time, no need for a cat fight. The D-O-double-G-Y and the W-E-S-T. Oh yes, it's Steve night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Steve night, gonna get her in tight. Oh yes, it's Steve night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Steve night, gonna get her in tight. Get her in tight.
The Y2K show has been entertaining from the West Coast for 21 years.
So cool, old school. Big Snoop Dogg, I be breaking the rules. I'm phenomenal, your mama knows, so I'ma go and get it. Did the beat, so you know I got to spit it. You got the look of a diva. Y'all got it all now. Follow the procedure. I need you to leave your mind, but bring your body. Ain't nothing.
Thank you for watching the Y2K show.
Oh yes, it's Steve night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Steve night, gonna get her in tight. Oh yes, it's Steve night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Steve night, gonna get her in tight.
You're watching the Y2K show, where they play my kind of videos.
Hello, everyone. Hello. This Las Vegas stuff. Now look at Chocolate's Cantina. Put it together, your hands together with Chocolate's Cantina. Here we go, y'all. Are you ready? I'll take you back to the old school. I am your girl, Miss Diamond, a.k.a. your sophisticated lady. I'm right here in Las Vegas, baby, and loving it. Before I come back home again, we hit it to the hip, and you don't stop. All right, do the same thing. It's a hook up the baby, give it a little mother, what you need. Choose it, tell all right, choose the beat. I said, me, the groove, and my friends, we're gonna try to do the beat. You see, I am Miss Diamond, and I like to say hello. To the back, to the right, the red and the red, the blue and the yellow, the first. Let's rock. You don't stop. Your body rock. How about my friends along? And it's over. Come on. Check it out. Oh, my delight. Your baby. You do the free thing. Wow. A brand new ride. Guaranteed. A devastating masterpiece. Everybody. Dark afternoon for interview. And the turntable. That's no pledge, must be true. Should go by the name of Lois Lane. Surely can. Superman. I do suppose. In the pantyhose. In the blue and red suit. Across the desk.
It is funny, but this is at my birthday party last year. This year, y'all saw me. It was when I first started this new channel, so it's like celebration time, y'all.
In the air, like the stone there. Let's do it. Don't stop. Motel. Say what? Everybody say motel holiday in. I say stop acting up. Trade her in. What can I say? By the old days. A G with the double E. American Master G. All over the world. And pretty girls. That's and to the lows. And to your toes. Did you say? I say, damn. I'm in the air. There he is. And fair. Gonna go just the same. And their brown eyes. Hypnotized. And no. Didn't break the dawn. No. Let me get rock. Bop, you don't dance time. Give me what you got. The baby in the mud. Just wiggle your mind. Say on and on.
This is my little sister from California, Miss Diamond, that convinced me to move to Vegas, y'all.
Hello, girl. I'll tell you what you got. Just right your spot. What are you waiting for? If you're mommy, you don't stop. Walk it to the bed, babe. Let me say, I'll be jumping the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to me. Oh, what's up?
I'm a breakfast host. The peas I would. Taste like wood. Saying that's your fool. He's being polite. That's fool. Just let you already ate. On your plate. Cook like cheese. A bag. That's it. Put this up and move and say.
So you must stop the door. It's very close. Go straight from the food you ate. And then you run to the store for it.
A bottle of queso mexte.
You call your friend.
2 weeks later.
He says, I don't understand how the food
Bubble with your ribs. Rock it out. Hop. Hip it to the hip, to the hip, hip. Hop it to the stop. Rock it to the day, day. Said up, to the rhythm of the boogie beat.
all the way through. That's how you do it all.
Look at the night and you don't see so lonely. Why you fill it up with holiness? But when I heard it off my shoulders, but when I heard when holy. Here we go. Touching wall, reaching out, touching me, touching you, everybody, go! Sweet Caroline, the time never seemed so good.
I've been inclined to believe they never would.
Everybody, go on. Sweet Caroline, the dark never seemed so good. I've been inclined to believe they never would. Here we go. Sweet Caroline.
Oh yeah! Woo! It's Diamond.
Is ready to go. What the fuck are y'all doing? We were young. And I know up here in my head I might be that young, but the rest of me, you know, because then when I was young, I was in touch with my feminine side, and back then I had breasts. Now I just look pregnant. I still do it. I never believed a black man could do this fast today.
Happy birthday, Papa Will.
Y'all pretty ladies around the world got a weird thing to show you, so now all the boys and girls and your brothers, your sister, and your mama too, cause we're about to throw down and you know just what to do. Wave your hands in the air like you don't care. Drive by the people as they stop to look and stare. Do your dance, do your dance, do your dance with mama. Come on, baby, tell me what's the word, a word. Everybody say, when you hear the call, you got to get it underway. You know that you'll be heard by all you sucker DJs who think you're fly. You got to be a reason, and you know the reason why. You gotta put on your air and act real cool, but you got to realize that you're acting like a fool. Give us music, baby, baby. We don't have the time for psychological romance. No romance, no romance, no romance of me. Mama, come on, baby, tell me what's the word up. Yeah. Everybody say, when you get the song, you got to get it on the way. Oh, oh yeah. Bring it down, Papa Will. Oh, yes, air guitar. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're really going to start to like this thing. I don't know. Rheumatism don't think it's too bad either right now, right? That's why I pulled out the CBD all when we was at the back. It was funny, I hold up my shit. And I'm gonna need it after all this winter. It's like possibly 3,500 calories up here with all this bullshit. W-O-R-D up. W-O-R-D up. W-O-R-D up. E, F, O, R, E, up. Now round of applause to Mr. Papa Murphy. Or Papa Willow. I don't know where that Murphy now. All right. Up next, I got.
Oh, Michael. Michael was a fucking genius. Michael! Shout out to Michael Jackson. That was my idol growing up. My beautiful girl, you came in, you changed my world. I look so brand new, my beautiful girl. You came and you changed me, girl. A feeling so true, Liberian girl. You know that you came and you changed my world. Just like you do, there's flowers in the sea. And she said that you look good, and he says that I can sleep. I love you, Liberian oh, my beautiful girl, more precious than any pearl. Your love so complete, my beautiful girl. You kiss me into the world. All it is fantasy. Does he love you? Does he love you? Like easy loving. Y'all are really excited to write this song together. I'm so excited right should not be ashamed, 'cause I have everything to lose, and I have nothing to gain. Oh, does he love you? Does he love you? Does he love me? Does he love me? Does he think of you? Does he think of you when he's holding me? Does he whisper all his fantasy? Does he love you? Does he love you like he's in love with me? Oh.
Okay, that was one of my easy to go ahead and play videos because it's full of karaoke songs that we have all sang, and there is no slam going to happen on that. But next coming up, the show I have now for you, this is going to talk to you about what I was saying about black people doing stuff to black people and how we have to stop it because it's ancestral that we've been doing this to each other as black people for forever. So here we go.
Hey, Shalom, Mashahab to all. Hudi Mayo here once again. Just want to briefly mention something before I continue talking about the enslavement of the indigenous American Aboriginal and in regards to who actually came over here. Who were these explorers? Who were these conquistadors? Who were these settlers? Europe was not all about white people. If you still think Europe was all white, then you don't know what you're talking about. If you think that all Spaniards and all Portuguese were white, then you don't know what you're talking about. If you didn't know there were black conquistadors, black Jews, aka Moranos, black Moors slash Europeans who helped in the invasion, in the finance of the conquest, and in the enslavement of your ancestors, and who most likely are living amongst us today, their descendants. Talk about let's go back to Africa.
We're writing a new story right now. We have to, because the evidence no longer supports the story of the past. This is where our
It says here the Moranos, the Moorish Jews of Portugal, Spain, and Benin, Guinean Coast, Part 1, by Okwe Giofo Ani. Says here Black Moorish Jews of Maghreb, Sudan, and Iberian Peninsula, the Moranos. Black Jews have lived in Iberia and Africa as far back as the time of the Carthaginians. Jewish traders sailed on Carthaginian merchant ships and traded all along the coast of North Africa and even into the many African tribes along the coast of North Africa and way into the southern savannas. Beyond the Sahara deserts, they were ancient Hebraic Jewish tribes. So these were ancient Hebraic Jewish tribes. We'll see later what kind of Jewish or Hebraic tribes, so-called Jewish. Those tribes got caught up in the events that followed the death of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, all the way from Medina to Maghreb. It is widely acknowledged that one of the most determined fighters against the black Arab encroachment on black African Berber property was Queen Kahina, a black Jewess, queen of the Maghreb. Early Arab scholars who visited the southern fringes of the Sahara Desert report the presence of Jewish tribes in places such as ancient Ghana and Mali. Many tribes in Africa today still recall their Hebraic roots, and many more continue their ancient Jewish laws and tradition, unadulterated by the politics of modern days. When the African Moors moved north and conquered Spain, it was a confederation of African Muslims, African Jews, and African Christians who effected the victory. So these Moors, what it's telling us here, that invaded Europe, went and held it down for about 600, 700 years. It was a mixture of basically Muslims, Jews, and Christians, all colored or so-called Negroes, but they were different kinds of beliefs and tribes and people going up to Europe. It's not like they were all just Muslim, as most of us think, but there were also amongst them Jews. We'll see what kind of Jews these were. The African Jews and the African Muslims were brothers genetically, phenotypically, and historically. They were the same black people pursuing the same goals of righteous existence. Right? So there's some relation there, right? They're saying. Well, we know that the Muslims and the Hebrews, they say that one of their patriarchs is Abraham, so there is correlation with that. And if we read the Old Testament, right? So it says, so the African Moorish Empire took root in Iberia and the rest of the southern Mediterranean coast. Black African Muslims and black African Jews with their black African Christians as such ruled Europe for the next 700 years. BreakingIsraelNews.com. It says here, was Christopher Columbus a Marrano Jew? His Hebrew writing says yes. Right, so according to this article, they are correlating that Christopher Columbus is a Marrano Jew. And we'll talk about what Marrano is in a moment. In the beginnings, the more historians research Christopher Columbus, the more they question the true origins of the great explorer, credited for discovering America. In fact, there is growing speculation that Columbus was a Jew, fleeing the Spanish Inquisition rather than an Italian, hired by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella to find riches in Asia. There is a lot of evidence that Christopher Columbus was a man of faith seeking to help his brethren escape certain debts or conversion in Spain, and even that he dreamed of rebuilding the Third Holy Temple in Jerusalem, noted Ronnie Segal, academic advisor for the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, an online language academy to Breaking Israel News. For starters, Georgetown University linguist Estelle Isisari has analyzed hundreds of Columbus' handwritten letters, diaries, and documents. She found that Columbus' primary language was Castilian Spanish, the Yiddish of the day for Spanish Jews, otherwise known as Ladino. Alright, so Yiddish. We're talking about Paleo Hebrew. We're talking about Yiddish. And what they speak today in Israel is Yiddish as well. Columbus also left money to other explorers with the belief that his successors would eventually liberate the Holy Land. Simon Wiesenthal writes in his book Sails of Hope that Columbus' voyage was motivated by a desire to find a safe haven for the Jews suffering from the Spanish Inquisition. Echoing this sentiment, Carol Delaney, a cultural anthropologist at Stanford University, believes that Columbus was a deeply religious man who sought riches in order to finance the return of Jerusalem to the Jewish people and the rebuilding of its holy temple. Right? So you see Columbus, and his ideas and his beliefs. He did write that he was going to America to conquer or reconquer the holy city in Mount Zion for the king and queen. Right? He said that. Right? So it continues, says, perhaps even more telling, Columbus signed his last will and testament with a triangular signature of dots and letters similar to what is inscribed on gravestones in Spanish Jewish cemeteries. In fact, he ordered his heirs to use this symbol in perpetuity. Though his story claims that Columbus' voyage was funded by Queen Isabella, in actuality it appears that Jewish conversos, those who converted by force to Catholicism, and prominent Jews gave the explorer an interest-free loan. These investors included Luis de Santangel, Gabriel Sanchez, Rabbi Don Isaac Abravanel, a known Jewish statesman. Indeed, Columbus' initial letters discussing his journey were sent to Santangel and Sanchez, thanking them for their support and telling them what he had found. So, who financed Columbus? These Marrano Jews. Right, we're going to see who these Marranos are again. We're going to see what kind of Jews these were and why Columbus related so much to the discovery of America, to the return of Jerusalem. So I wanted to go back to this painting from the beginning of the article, and it's called The Return of Christopher Columbus. And it says here, his audience before King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, painting by Eugene Delacroix. This is a historical painting I looked at. And I just wanted to show you something in case you didn't notice it at first. Regarding King Ferdinand, um, as you can see here, he is basically a copper-colored person, right? Or more, mulatto, whatever they want to call him or tag him as, but he's definitely not the same complexion as those around him, as you can see here. That's King Ferdinand. All right, this is the king queen during the time of Columbus voyages. All right, copper color. Remember, Europe, black nobility, so-called black. So I'm at the Virtual Jewish World website, and it says here by David Crush. The small Jewish community in the Bahamas has origins dating to the 17th century. The British first settled the Bahamas in 1620. However, few Jews came to live on the island. Luis de Torres, who was the official interpreter for Christopher Columbus, is thought to have been the first Jew and European to set foot in the New World. Alright, so this Luis de Torres, he's copper colored. All right, and as you can see, he's the interpreter, the official interpreter for Christopher Columbus, a Jew, right? So again, he is thought to have been the first Jew and European to set foot in the New World when the Santa Maria landed at San Salvador in 1492. Torres was a Marrano, a secret Jew, secret Jew, who officially practiced Catholicism, but was escaping the dangers of Europe during the Inquisition. He was fluent in Arabic, Hebrew, Chaldean, Spanish, Portuguese, French, and Latin. Right, so he spoke all these languages, but mainly we're gonna see, he brought them especially because of Hebrew, right? And continuing on the same website, it says conversos and Marranos. The term Marrano and converso were applied in Spain and Portugal to the descendants of baptized Jews suspected of secret adherence to Judaism. Converso from the Latin conversus meant literally the converted. Various origins for the term Marrano have been suggested, which include the Hebrew marit ayin, the appearance of the eye, referring to the fact that the Marranos were ostensibly Christian, but actually Jews. Mohoram Ata, you are excommunicated. The Aramaic Hebrew Mar Anus, forced convert. The Hebrew Mumar, apostate, with the Spanish ending ano, the Arabic Mura'in, hypocrite, and the second word of the ecclesiastical imprecation, anathema maranatha. All such derivations, however, are unlikely. The most probable is from the Spanish word meaning swine or pig, derived from the Latin varis, wild boar. The term probably did not originally refer to the Jews' reluctance to eat pork, as some scholars hold. From its earliest use, it was intended to impart the sense of gluten conveyed by the word. Although romanticized and regarded by later Jewry as a badge of honor, the term was not as widely used, especially in official circles, as is often believed. In Latin America, as a rule, it is not found in official documents. As a rule, right? So they removed this word marrano. You hear that? In Latin America. So it says it is not found in official documents, and there is little evidence of its unofficial use in most places. It is not clear if the old Christians only or the secretly practicing Jews also called themselves Marranos. Right? So you see, they took that out of the documents in Latin America. They don't want you to know there was Marranos over here.
Hey, my name is Brian Page, and I teach people how to make money with Airbnb without actually having to own.
Encyclopedia.com. Marranos, a term of opprobrium designating Jews and occasionally Muslims, okay, occasionally Muslims or Moors, right, converted to Christianity and their descendants, was used in the Iberian world in late medieval and early modern times. The Castilian word marrano, deriving from Arabic word for prohibited or illicit, means swine or pork, and either expressed the same abhorrence toward converts as the converts had previously felt toward the ritually unclean animal, or insinuated suspicions regarding the converts' continued loyalties to Judaism. Usage of the term appears to have been limited to common parlance and satirical literature. All right. So it says it's also stating here that it wasn't used, that it was limited, right? The usage of this word, like we read before, it wasn't put into Latin American documents. Thus, in modern times, Jewish historians revived the term to underscore the uniqueness of the Marrano phenomenon in Iberian and Jewish history. So it was revived, or it was brought back. From the book Christopher Columbus and the Participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese Discoveries by Dr. M. Kaiser Lynn. This was written in 1894. And we're in chapter 6 here. It says, after the Spanish monarchs had expelled all the Jews from all their kingdoms and lands in January, in that same month they commissioned me to undertake the voyage to India with a properly equipped fleet. So Columbus, this is from Columbus's words stating in 1492, at the same time that the Jews were being expelled from Spain and Portugal, that he was given the order or the permission, the authority, and the funding for his journey, right, to India, it says, right? India. Why India? Because South America and the Americas, right? Farthest India was called India, or where the indigo people are, the dark-skinned people, indigenous people, right? So, Continue says, these are the words with which Columbus begins his journey, all right? The expulsion of the Jews from Spain is closely connected with Columbus' expedition and with the discovery of America. All right, so it's very important what happened to the Jews of Spain and to the discovery of America. Okay, not merely externally in point of time, but also intrinsically. On March 31st, 1492, the Catholic monarch sent forth from the palace of the Alhambra the edict that all Jews and Jewesses of every age should, on pain of death, leave all the kingdoms and lands of Spain within 4 months. The edict, which was signed by Ferdinand and Isabella, is of a wholly religious character, especially as regards the chief reason given for that act. The reason given is that in spite of the incessant and most energetic efforts of the Inquisition, the Marranos were begilded by those who adhered to Judaism to return to their old faith, and that this greatly imperiled the Catholic religion. Right, so there were, you see what's going on. I just wanted you to have a reference of what was going on at the same time Columbus was leaving Europe, all right, coming to America. All right, now with that reference, so let's read about Columbus' first voyage and who he was with. It says here, on August 2nd, the Spanish Jews began their wanderings, and the next day, Friday, August 3rd,
Columbus with his fleet on 3 ships, the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and Nina, sailed to seek an ocean route to India, again India/America, and to discover a new world, or the real old world, which he knew about. He was accompanied on his first voyage by not more than 120 men, so 120 people went with Columbus on his first voyage. According to some writers, by only 90, according to others.
Almost
Almost
all
all
Castilians
Castilians and Aragonese, many of them were from Palos, and some from Guadalajara, Avila, Segovia, Cáceres, Castrojeris, Ledesma, Villar, and Talavera, all cities in which before the expulsion large or small Jewish communities existed. Right? So you know all these people that are going to Columbus, most of them are basically Moranos, right? Getting expelled. Continuing. Were there any persons of Jewish extraction on the Armada, which under Columbus' guidance steered its course towards a new world? It was not easy for him to find men willing to accompany him on his adventurous voyage. Even persons guilty of crime were released from prison on condition that they should enroll themselves among the recruits. Alright, so the kings and queens made a law because nobody wanted to go with Columbus, nobody wanted to do the trip. So they sent criminals. They let them go from, their prisons over there. So they sent criminals over with Columbus, right? Criminals, right? That's what they sent to you. To come over here and invade you and make you turn into Christianity, and they're prisoners, they're criminals, right? What was to prevent Jews under the ban of expulsion, persecuted, and homeless from taking part in the voyage? Among the explorers' companions whose names have come down to us, the complete list is lost, according to them, right? They don't want us to know who was there. There were several men of Jewish stock. For example, Louis de Torres, again, here we go. Louis de Torres, right? Remember, he was the interpreter. It says a Jew who had occupied a position under the governor of Murcia and who was baptized shortly before Columbus sailed. As he understood Hebrew, Chaldee, and some Arabic, Columbus employed him as interpreter. Again, another source, as interpreter. So they knew they were going to the old world. So he brought this person, Luis de Torres, just in case, because he knew many languages, but especially Hebrew, because we'll see later that Columbus was looking for the Grand Khan, or the Prester John, right? And continuing a little ahead in this book, it says, and before that said, a body of men, Spaniards, Moors, and Jews, as well as Irishmen and Genoese, had covered more than 2,000 miles. The seamen began to murmur loudly at the intolerable length of the voyage. So it's stating here, who was with Columbus again, Spaniards, Jews, and Moors, traveling with Columbus over to enslave you, to recover the Holy Land in Mount Zion, as Christopher Columbus stated in the Book of Prophecies he wrote, which is in the Columbina Library in Seville. Alright, so it continues, says, Columbus calmed them as well as he could. On October 11th, after the customary evening hymn, he admonished his crew to keep a sharp lookout for land. In addition to the gratuity of 10,000 maravedis offered by the king, he promised a silk waistcoat to him who should first sight land. At last, early on Friday morning, October 12th, D-Day, the day on which the Jews expelled from Spain and their co-religionists in every part of the world were singing their hosannas, the cry, Tierra, Tierra, land, land, arose from the Pinta.
Yes, it does take money to make money in trading, but what if someone else provided you with the trading power?
This is from the book The Secret Archives of the Vatican by Maria Luisa Ambrosini. You can get this in Barnes and Noble. Alright, and this was a hard book to get. I had to take a screenshot of every page. It was only on loan. And so it says here, greater than Europe and Africa. The popes had been collecting Hebrew codices since Avignon times. And while the account of a voyage a quarter of the way around the world is an odd thing to find in the records of a desert people, there is. So they're saying that that the Vatican and these popes had documents and codices going back, Hebrew codices, stating that how they traveled the world, right? How they had lands far away. right? It says, and they call them desert people, but we know they weren't all desert people. There is, when one comes to think of it, a surprising frequency of reference to the sea and its islands in biblical writings, a reflection of desert man's longing for water, or an unacknowledged heritage from the Phoenicians. The document, if it existed, has disappeared, according to them, right? It may be in one of the bundles of unclassified documents in the Miscellanea, and it probably definitely is. It may have been destroyed in the sack of Rome in the next century, or the cosmographer friend may simply have given it to Pinzon, who would have had no trouble getting it retranslated in Spain, from which Jews had not yet been evicted. The fact that Columbus took with him on his first voyage an interpreter, again, who was converted Jew and skilled in Hebrew, though he knew only a little Arabic, suggests that he may have attached importance to the legend. All right, so even the Vatican and these people studying these records in the Vatican let you know that Columbus brought this Hebrew interpreter for a reason. He believed in something. All right, just like he wrote that he was going to go recover the holy city in Mount Zion, right? A fragment of supporting evidence comes from paleobotany. The same variety of cotton was being cultivated both in Peru and in the Indus Valley in 2500 BC. All right, so here we go again. Peru, right? Peru. So they're saying that we had cotton, right? And we were making cotton, growing it, making clothing, right? In Peru, in the same time as the Indus Valley. You know, this is the true old world we've seen before. The oldest pyramids are over here, the mummies. You know, this is Atlantis. So we can see that, you know, they're always trying to match something old that happened over here to something in the other side of the world, right? But we know this is the true old world, right? So let's continue. It says, since cottonseed is killed by seawater, this may be an indication of intercontinental contact somewhere back in the megalithic age that seems less and less primitive the more we learn about it. The great names of the past crowded around the discovery of America. So again, the great names of the past crowded around the discovery of America, as ancient writings newly printed were searched for evidence and opinion. Columbus studied Ptolemy, Aristotle, and Pliny. So you see Columbus studying these people because these people are the ones with the legends, right, of Atlantis, like Plato and all these other people. So these same people studied Plato. Because in other accounts, Columbus is said to be actually Greek, and his name is different than Christopher Columbus, if he is a real person. Right? We're going to get to that. But as you can see, there's a lot of Greek influence here, and the Greeks are the ones who wrote about Atlantis, right, or America. He had a copy of Pope Aeneas Sylvius' Historia Rerum Ubique Gestarum. The Pope had modestly planned a universal history and geography, and had completed the section on Asia. He read Esdras, the prophet of the Apocrypha, and was inclined to believe him because St. Ambrose and St. Augustine had thought highly of him. Also, Esdras told Columbus what he wanted to hear. His estimate of the Earth's relative proportion of land and water made it seem that the Atlantic would be conveniently narrow. So you see how they're talking about Esdras, right? And we also know that in the book of Esdras is when they talk about the Assyrian captivity and how the lost tribes, right, decided to um, flee into the wilderness, right? They separated, right? So continuing, even Prince Henry the Navigator in his research Institute of Sagres found some of his inspiration and motivation in legend. All right. So all these legends they had in Europe and West Africa is really stories of old of Atlantis or slash America or the old India or the third Ethiopia. Right. The route around Africa was to lead not only to the prosperity of Oriental trade, but to the kingdom of Prester John. Again, Prester John, aka King David, aka the Grand Khan or Wan Khan, into the gardens of the high point of the world. It is strange that the Queen of Sheba should have come down to us as a sex goddess, for what the biblical writers thought worth mentioning about her was her intellectuality. They tell us that when she came to Jerusalem, we're talking about Peru, right? Ancient Jerusalem, to the city where Solomon had made silver to be as stones and the cedars like the sycamores, the cedars, and the veil for abundance. It was to prove him with hard questions. Another legend, or the rumor of a legend, repeats the theme of questioning intelligence and forms a tenuous but fascinating tie between the library archives of the church and the discoveries of America. So you hear these legends of Solomon and Sheba questioning his intelligence or seeing how wise he was. Basically coincides and correlates with the discovery of America, right? It's no separation. Again, Columbus said he went to recover the holy city in Mount Sinai. That's Cusco, Peru, over there. The ancient Jerusalem, the city of David, is in Sexawaman, which is the fortress or the citadel that's still standing with three walls, as Jerusalem is described by Josephus, aka Pisa. Let's continue. One of Columbus' officers, the able but rebellious Martin Alonso Pinzon, captain of the Pinta, who had helped fit out the ships and recruit seamen for the enterprise, later felt that his services had been inadequately recognized and rewarded. In 1550, 9 years after Columbus' death, an inquest was held as part of the Pinzon's suit against the Columbus family. In the course of it, Pinzon's son swore that on a visit he and his father had made to Rome, his father had called on a friend who was a cosmographer at the Vatican Library. This friend had lent him a Hebrew document from the Papal Library, which said that in Solomon's time it was believed that the Queen of Sheba had sailed out of the Mediterranean into the Atlantic, and there, 95 degrees to the westward by an easy passage, she had found a land called Sipanso, which Pinzon took to be Japan. So Sipanso, yeah, and we're going to hear about Sipango, and that's what Columbus was looking for when he actually went to America. That is basically what he thought was over there, which was he thought was in America, right? Or the India, the farthest India, Sipango, the Orient.
We're talking serious income. And the way that they do that,
Don't need a real estate license.
don't need a license,
Don't need credit.
don't need credit,
Don't need money.
very little, if any, money.
Fertile and abundant, whose extent surpassed Africa and Europe. So you hear that, very fertile and abundant, whose extent surpassed Africa and Europe. And that's definitely America. The Pinzons claimed that they themselves had intended to make this voyage, and that Columbus, despondent at the king's failure to finance his project, had taken heart after learning of this document. Witnesses were found to confirm the testimony. So Columbus wasn't even going to do it until Pinzon was about to go do it. All right, so he stole his idea. That's what they're saying here. If Columbus was real, the story is not intrinsically impossible. All right, so that's where we're in this book. Let's just go to somewhere else. So basically, you see that they knew that America was over there. We saw in the other videos, right? How the Vatican talks about these distant lands they were going to go conquer, right? The Dundee versus Papa Who they knew existed, these distant, mysterious lands. After learning of this document, witnesses were found to confirm testimony. So Columbus wasn't even going to do it until Pinzon was about to go do it. Right? It's like Story's idea. That's what they're saying here. If Columbus was real, the story is not intrinsically impossible. Alright, so that's where we're at. This book is just go to somewhere else. So basically, you see that they knew that America was over there. We saw the other videos, right? How the Vatican talks about the distant lands they were going to go conquer, right? The Dundee versus Papa Who they knew existed, these distant, mysterious lands. At the meaning of this document, witnesses were found to confirm testimony. So Columbus was even excluded, so
Okay, so here we're finding all kind of brand new information that had never been shown to us anywhere on this planet. And now we see that how could Christopher Columbus discover a place that was already there, for one, but that how is it misconstrued that he landed in North America? As we're learning right here, he landed in South America, between what is it, Mexico and South America, Peru. And we're also finding out that the Bible is based off of information here we're in South America, information that had never, and that what we were led to believe about Israel and all these other places being in Europe and in Central Asia, we are learning from the people that were actually there that wrote these documents. We ain't making none of this stuff up. The person that's narrating everything, he is reading directly from manuscripts and information taken from actual people to verify that this is what really happened. Forget what you heard. Forget what you heard. Get away from everything you think you've ever been taught and realize that we've been, like Malcolm X said, we've been hog-winkled and bamboozled, and Plymouth Rock landed on us. We was already here, and Plymouth Rock came and landed on us and took it, and was disguised. But the thing to remember is that this was all done by swarthy people, so-called Negroes. European Negroes came over and destroyed what had been built by the indigenous South American people. That's why they speak Spanish over there, and that we don't in the North Americas, because that is the area where they were most heavily landed and call themselves claiming as land, because Portugal speaks Portuguese. I wonder why that is. So think about that for a minute while I play this next song, while I go try to find another one, y'all. Hey, every little thing you know makes me smile. And if I got my way, baby, I'll tie you up for a while. Oh yeah, baby, I would definitely tie you up for a while if I had my way about it. But I don't want to get too serious here. I don't want to get too serious. I just wanted to make sure everybody was awake, but I'm gonna flip this, y'all. Because I believe in having fun, but I got to flip this. Yeah, because I'd like for us to continue having a good show, and I don't want us to be sitting up here getting doxxed and getting the show shut down before we get a chance to get started. And I just want to say salute to Old Head. Salute. Yeah, Old Head, that does. Because the original place where pyramids were built is here in America. There's all kind of mound cities here in the Americas. I wonder, man, that's pretty damn amazing that our America is what's known as the old world. You should check me out when I get around to where these different states get their names from, and how it originally was all comprised of, European swarthy people, okay? Sephardic Jews, they call them. And some other names that I haven't written down yet, but I'm getting to it. But Old Head, thank you for being here today. I hope you stay and have a great time, man. I like it
These niggas is strange. When I'm up and down the avenue,
I got a C-Say cool nut, hella dip. We candy ass paint, we gold ass chips. We call this shit fit, so I gotta watch these haters. The smithy is smash on them like mashed potatoes. Nothing can save you, so don't even holler. Y'all shit move, our shit a Rottweiler. On everything we stronger than bottle of Ridley. Ho, you ain't know, it's fresh to a bit. The homie got the city, so don't get too jumpy. I fuck around and leave your ass holy and bumpy. Back like Humpty Dumpty, but fucking the game. And if I get caught, I'm bleeding insane. It's all in your veins, Jiggy, you ain't right. You'll never do it like poppin' sugar tonight. The game ain't nice, so I gotta stay lean. I put that on every fucking thing. These niggas strange,
but I like it. These niggas is strange. When I'm up and down the avenue, strange, but I like it. These niggas is strange. When I'm up and down the avenue,
hey, niggas is lame, strange, fake, fugazi. I'm Pablo the pimp, I make the bitch pay me. I've been stacking on the block, now they looking at me crazy. Gotta keep the hammer around me, cause these niggas shady. Plotting on the meal, had to get it out the project. Hit it with the water, straight drop, that's the process. Cocaine, baby, I was raised off the dope smoke. Clientele knocking, got them chicken out the front door. Jumped off the porch, head first into the dope gang. Line elevated, gotta get it out the bitch, man. State to state, different cities, all I know is cash flow. Gotta cop the porn, that's what I'm living fast for. Pockets full of blue things, wood full of blue cook. Took a bitch with one glance, nigga, that's a no look. Cut across the mob, nigga, you gon' get your life took. Niggas act strange when they see a nigga pull up.
but I like it. These niggas is strange. When I'm up and down the avenue, strange, but I like it.
Yeah, what's up? I want to take this time to dedicate this song to all my fallen soldiers out there, man. You know what I'm saying? To all my peoples doing hard time. To all my street hustlers, man. My street soldiers. You know what I'm saying? We still out here grinding, man. We out here grinding. Let's get this money. Let's go.
I woke up in the morning, gotta thank God for seeing another day. I got money on my mind, looking for another way. Living this life I live, trying to feed my family in peace. Living this life I live, gotta get this money for the rich. That's why I push a hard line. I keep my pistols by my wayside. To all my peoples doing hard time, just keep your head up, it's gonna be alright, yeah. Here's a true story of a hustler's mind. Counting money on the block day and night. Gotta stay grinding till my pockets run. Got my hands on my pistol, it's a long night. I'm living this sweet life, yeah. I'm living this sweet life, yeah. I'm living this sweet life, yeah. I gotta find a way, I gotta get paid. I stay hugging the block. Gotta stay grinding to the top. I'm getting money, I'm getting money. I'm getting money, got this game on lock. Living this life I live, trying to feed my family in peace. Living this life I live, gotta get this money for the rich. That's why I push a hard line. I keep my pistols by my wayside. To all my peoples doing hard time, just keep your head up, it's gonna be alright, yeah. Here's a true story of a hustler's life. Counting money on the block day and night. Gotta stay grinding till my pockets run. Got my hands on my pistol, it's a long night. I'm living this sweet life, yeah. I'm living this sweet life, yeah. I'm living this sweet life, yeah. I gotta find a way, I gotta get paid. I'm a certified hustler. Gotta get that mayonnaise and that mustard.
Can't be soft like custard. I'm dodging all you haters and you busters. Like Ali, I'll be the greatest. I'm legendary. I'm street famous. Like Ali, I'll be the greatest. I'm legendary. I'm street famous. Gotta feed my fam. Can't go for broke. No time for play. No time for jokes. This be the realest song that I wrote. Just give me 2 guns, watch the pistol smoke. Here's a true story of a hustler's life. Counting money on the block day and night. Gotta stay grinding till my pockets line. Got my hands on my pistol, it's a long night. I'm living this street life, yeah. I'm living this street life, yeah. I'm living this street life, yeah. I gotta find a way, I gotta get paid. Here's a true story of a hustler's life. Counting money on the block day and night. Gotta stay grinding till my pockets line. Got my hands on my pistol, it's a long night. I'm living this street life, yeah. I'm living this street life, yeah. I'm living this street life, yeah. I gotta find a way, I gotta get paid.
So much time can be spent at work trying to answer emails or draft proposals, and it can become overwhelming. But Grammarly is
I don't give a fuck if you sucking a penis or ducking subpoenas. You lucky to meet us. Respect is something that I earned as a fetus. You tried to burn and defeat us and question who is the cleanest. Take off that rap costume, we'll surely see who's the meanest. You try to come in between us, but this monster is grown. I'll show you the concepts of war. Constantly on top of your property, stealing your throne. It's obvious you're a clone dog. Throw you a bone raw. I actually kick it with the director who made the movie Saw. You kicking it with bitches who get you to buy him shit down at the mall. I'll touch 100 bras. You fought 100 balls. Over chicks who ain't even fucked you after wear Wonder Bras. I'll eat you in the flesh, defeat you in the booth. Speak to you in death, sprinkle you with truth. I just wanna hit him with a little bit of venom that'll get inside your motherfucking melted brain. Kung Fu vampire reignites the flame.
Shut up, yes, niggas will come your way. We'll make it our house to every club in town. Shut up, yes, niggas will come your way. We'll make it our house to every club in
Yeah,
town.
don't get it twisted off of an image you ain't used to seeing. I break you to pieces. Only one that be able to save you was Jesus. There's bullshit going on. I think you the reason. You niggas refuse to get it until I make you believe it. Now when I make new releases, I'm always peeping out the way you conceive it. You motherfuckers better take it or leave it. And ever since the game put me in a random position, I've had the ambition to beat you with my pants in the kitchen. I'm going mad and ballistic. Take a look at my fucking life. Grab the statistics. I've been like this way back in the distance. Rapping this sick shit on my own with a lack of assistance. You seem so eager. You niggas just need to back up and listen. You rappers with no skill don't deserve to get the fame. Shit's changed. It's like everyone's purpose is the same. My new purpose in the game's to keep Easy from turning in his grave until his name is permanently saved.
Shut up, yes, niggas will come your way. We'll make it our house to every club in town. Shut up, yes, niggas will come your way. We'll make it our house to every club in town.
But back to the matter, my faction is packed with gun splatter. You lack the right data. Oh, that's more brains than I scatter. Popsies pop up, put more on remains on a platter. Copycats sign up for combat, but they can't climb the ladder. This is the death of me, so tell the referee that it's my destiny to collect refugees and feed them ecstasy. You'll eat the recipe. My stepping is lyrical weaponry. I think you're best to be battling bitches that's having sex with me. Bitches that's having second guesses and questioning everyone. Are you filled with estrogen? All of my people, what's left of them, you pestering. Cause your poisonous method and got you effing and acting faster than acting. Acting half of them laughing at just the rapping. Your only craft is networking on MySpace. I'm here to change the game, not to make it a fucking disgrace. Erasing your fucking mind. My chase is all you can taste. Kung Fu vampire and hops it in your face.
Shut up, yes, niggas will come your way. We'll make it our house to every club in town. Shut up, yes, niggas will come your way.
yeah, 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 yeah. When push comes to shove, I rush the herd and proclaim open season for cow tipping. If and when you like
This is my son right here. Can't you tell? Look just like me. Nigga abusive.
It ain't suggested to test freshness, spawn from repressed aggression, and second guessing will get you gangplanked over. The defender of the zone of enders is hell bent on cinders fucking your faculty. This ain't a game and I'm not here to put up a shot block, and I'm sure as fuck not to be mocked or talked about. Cock boys to deploy the reserves and get this circle jerking on the work in progress. The axles with catalyst, protagonist, masochist, manuscript, maniacs gone mental, and the torment won't be accidental. The element of surprise personified, turning halos into bow ties. Mega abusive, the variable paired to no known coefficient, transition to span distances uncharted on a return flight from martyrdom. It appears that I've outsmarted them. Mega abusive, the variable paired to no known coefficient, transition to span distances uncharted on a return flight from martyrdom. It appears that I've outsmarted them. I'm tickled fuchsia that you should hold me in such high esteem, and it's always been such a goal of mine to inspire sadistic daydreams, acting as if I can't infiltrate the mainstream just because I've been secluded with the bass scene. I'm off the wriggle for shiggle, for shits and giggles, and it's a whole lot simpler than I make it look, little pickle. Get something truncated, trying to play Mr. Educated. Flying by the seat of my pants, flipping the bird from a cockeyed cockpit with a dirt bomb and a smart rocket hovering above your next project. The survival rate's expected to be non-existent. In closing, I'd just like to thank you for the invitation to gank you. Perhaps you ought to be more careful about the battles you provoke vocally. While we may never cross paths, don't get caught performing locally. Mega abusive, the variable paired to no known coefficient, transition to span distances uncharted on a return flight from martyrdom. It appears that I've outsmarted them. Mega abusive, the variable paired to no known coefficient, transition to span distances uncharted on a return flight from martyrdom. It appears that I've outsmarted them.
Yeah. Yo. 1, 2, 1, 2. Got them in trees, nigga, green, purple, and orange. Couldn't keep a bowl of kush that look like some lucky charms. The scrapers and the business, hot boxing with all my friends. Eyes bloodshot, my bloodshot, the lenses. I come fresh out of kush coma, it's boss a lady. With a bag of kush, 2 bitches, and polka dot bikini. With a rolling kush, the OG. Split the spice, OG1, Kenobi. I'll hold me, smoke in my chest and keep it in. Treated like a stick of doing, shot in the pen. And when I laid it out, my cranium soaking the game in. No shame. Nigga, I'm high in the soul plane. Eyes lost, shining like diamonds on your chain. Real talking Fetty Chico, smoke like a soul train, nigga. Smoking zips and pounds, getting hot in the motherfucker and never coming down. I'm high as fuck, and never coming down. Never coming down. Never coming down. I'm high as fuck, and never coming down.
See,
puffing all loud pounds, bound, break it down, crumble. Cali dubs around me, saliva bubbles. I'm doubting that I'm arriving on time to whatever's coming. It's the sativa and indica blend in my rebel like a plane. Take a pump again, stay on the level. Keep your lane out the circle. And if it's CD, then please proceed to the back and take your seat to your stubble. Nice, white stripe, we smoke neon hydro. I ain't the white boy blowing, it's got me gone. I gotta get right, man, I got shit to do. This money won't make itself a man. This shit I got police, they got me spitting true. One hit and watch me instead. Approach the levels only read about tablets from the values of it. I'll smoke you out and have you out on the bed. Fucking with me, I have you high as fuck, cotton out with eyes that are red. Bitch, yeah.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
You're all a bunch of fucking assholes. You know why? You don't have the guts to be what you want to be. You're looking at. You're all a bunch of fucking assholes. You know why? You don't have the guts to be what you want to be. You need people like me, so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
With my forehead.
You need people like me, so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
Up in California, ayy. Real niggas from the Bay. From Frisco to San Jose, we on a paper chase. Looking ahead for better days. From the cradle to the grave.
With my forehead.
We mob for it, partner by the dock of the bay. I'm on the block with the Glock, still copping the yay. And you don't really need the vest, cause you'll get popped in the face. I'm on some old 89 shit, rocking the bass. I'm on a paper chase, trying to stuff a knot in the safe. And keep the pistols by my waist and pop the knot in the safe. I'm like the rap Barry Bonds, puffing blueberry bomb. And I'm a ball like LeBron, stack chips like Sean John. It's all official blood, young thugs hustle for life. Not really tripping off the consequences, knowing the price. You know this ghetto life got us living so ghetto trifling. You can find me in the ghetto, in the cutlass with the metal pipes, black and white, rally stripes, mobbing through the ghetto night. I see the light, searching for a better life. Expensive flights, we mob, cause we mob it, we mob it, we mob it.
With my forehead. With my forehead.
Every day, all day.
With my forehead.
Up in California, ayy. Real niggas from the Bay.
You need people like me, so you can point your fucking
Frisco to
fingers
San Jose,
and say, that's
we
the
on the
bad
paper
guy.
chase.
We mobbing like we all out of break fluid. We make history every time we make music. Not losing like the 72 Dolphins, stepping through bosses, balling and flossing, making you nauseous, saying Quinn, a hip-hop messiah with the block-to-block riders. Bay niggas the illest, call me biased. Tries and get tied up, duct tape the hitting. We touch paper, shake prison. My eyes full of ambition, pistol full of ammunition for my protection and my protection alone. We can chop game, or I can come and wreck your dome. From the 415, and when I slide up, all you hear is my 415s slapping the rap game. Yeah, man, we in this for the kids to one day run the family business. We tear one-on-one, Highway 80 and 880. My homies in 100-degree heat, they still shake.
We on this thug shit, money, power, drug shit, mobbing like the Taliban. Bundles wrapped in rubber bands, don't test me. The young Joe Pesci, shit gets messy on the block. I'ma get it from slanging raps, or I'ma get it from slanging rocks. It don't stop. This shit is hot like the summertime. And if you wanna hear it again, it gonna press rewind. Cause I'm that nigga sipping wine in the booth, 80 proof, Grey Goose. Let me get loose, I'm a monster, steak and lobster. We make reservations up at Crest stations. I like the finer things of life. This rhyme is dedicated to my cousin Comatose.
You need people like me, so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
We're mobbing.
Yeah. Hawa. Hey, peace to everybody in the chat. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the Great Spirit again, the Most High, for letting us be gathered here today and get this information out there and, have us here building together and learning. All right, so I appreciate everybody out there. Let me get a one. Make sure you hear me. Make sure you can pick up the mic. All right, so got some pretty good information here. I've been wanting to basically take out, but we needed a little bit more of a discernment and understanding right before I brought this information out. With my last videos, you guys saw, basically, how swarthy Europe was, right? How copper color, how aboriginal, how indigenous, how melanated, how dark skinned it was, right? And so let's not forget that. Let's keep that idea in our heads. When we're talking about these Europeans, these swarthy Europeans, because during my research, when I was studying the indentured servitude and all that, I kept coming across, these different types of people like Protestants, Presbyterians, Quakers, and all that. And what I was finding was very interesting, especially with the Huguenots and all these people and how they were related to the Huguenots and stuff. So we're going to get into some information. I'm going to read a lot today. Hopefully you guys don't mind. All right. We're going to get this information out. So we're going to go, raw with it. We're doing this live. All right. So first, we're gonna start out with some basic info about the Huguenots. I know a lot of people say Huguenot. What's a Huguenot? When I first heard about them, I was like, "What's a Huguenot?" Like I don't even know what a Huguenot is. All right. So let me just go ahead and get started with the presentation. All right. So let me know whenever if you guys hear like a long period with silence or dead air. Just let me know, just in case my mic goes off. All right. So again, who's the Huguenots, right? What is a Huguenot? I know people, a lot of you probably already heard of them. You say, oh, yeah, I've heard that they're French people, right? They're French Protestants, right? Well, just like everything else they tell us, there's more to it, right? There's more to it, to these people and their influence in colonial America and actually modern world and ancient times and who they're connected to anciently and what they've been doing, right? basically behind closed doors. All right. So I wanted to get started right away, and I'm gonna go ahead and start with this image here. This is from a History Channel, right? Basic info. The Huguenots, right? Huguenots were French Protestants in the 16th and 17th century who followed the teachings of the I'm getting kicked off here. Sorry about that. All right. Don't hate on us, YouTube. Let's go. All right. So it says that the Huguenots, again, 16th, 17th century French Protestants, right, who followed the teachings of theologian John Calvin, supposedly, right, persecuted by the French Catholic government during a violent period. Huguenots fled the country in the 17th century, creating Huguenot settlements all over Europe, in the United States, and Africa. All right. So United States, right? They came here. So Calvinism. What's Calvinism, right? This is from Britannica Online. Calvin's theology. It says, at age 27, Calvin published Institutes of Christian Religion, which in successive editions became a manual of Protestant theology. Calvin agreed with Martin Luther on justification by faith in the sole authority of Scripture. On the sacrament of the Lord's Supper, he took a position between the radical Swiss and the Lutheran view. Thus, he believed that the body of Christ was not present everywhere, but that his spirit was universal and that there was a genuine common communion with the risen Lord. Calvin likewise took a middle view on music and art. He favored congregational singing of the Psalms, which became a characteristic practice of the Huguenots, all right, in France. So the Huguenots sang the Psalms, which is like the Torah, right, the Old Testament, Hebrew stuff, right, Huguenots. It says in France, and the Presbyterians in Scotland. So the Presbyterians did the same, and in the New World, all right. Calvin rejected the images of saints and the crucifixes, that is the image of the body of Christ upon the cross, but allowed the plain cross. All right, these modifications do not, however, refute the generalization that Calvinism was largely opposed to art and music in the service of religion, but not in the secular sphere, right? So you see how they're like kind of like against the whole the whole Catholic thing, right? Like they're not really fully Catholic, but they're type of Christian, supposedly, right? But they're like, you know, going with these psalms, right? They're singing psalms. So etymology online of Huguenot, just before we get started, right? Huguenot says French Puritan, 1562. From Middle French Huguenot, which according to French sources originally was a political, not a religious term, all right? Because now they want you to think it's a religious thing, all right? They want you to think it's a religious thing, all right? But it's really not. So it says, which according to French sources originally was a political, not a religious term. The name was applied in 1520s to Genevan partisans opposed to Duke of Savoy, who joined Genève to the Swiss Confederation. And on the most likely guess, probably it is an alteration of Swiss German Eidgenoss, Confederate. All right, Confederate. All right, for everybody who knows Psalms 83, what we know about Confederate, Confederation, a Confederate. From Middle High German, etigenos, all right, an oath, all right, it says comrade, comrades, cognate with Old English genete, comrade, companion, he with whom one shares possessions, thus comrade, thing of value, possession, to make use of, enjoy, a Huguenot, all right? So what does all this mean? All right, we're gonna get into it. What do they mean by Confederate? All right, by the end of this video, you're gonna understand this. All right, so what's a reform? Because they say that these Huguenots are basically reformed Christians or reformed Protestants or reformed this, whatever, you know. So it says in 1300 to convert into another and better form. To convert into another and better form. They were already something, right? They're converting, they're turning, they're changing into something else. From old French reformer, rebuild, reconstruct, recreate. From Latin reformer, to form, again, change, transform, alter. From again, form to form. All right, intransitive stands for 1580s. Says meaning to bring a person away from evil course of life, or well, down here it says reform, any proceeding which brings back to a better order of things. Oh, so now it's a little different, right? Any proceeding which brings back a better order of things. Let's bring order back. From reform, and in some uses from French reforme, a branch of Judaism. A branch of what? A branch of what? Judaism. as a branch of Judaism in 1843, but it goes before 1843. We're going to see that. All right, it says Huguenot Church. French Calvinists adopted the Huguenot name around 1560, but the first Huguenot church was created 5 years earlier in a private home in Paris, it says here. The origin of the name Huguenot is unknown, but believed to have been derived from combining phrases in German and Flemish that describe their practice of home worship, like practicing in secret, right? Practicing in secret. By 1562, there were 2 million Huguenots in France. 2 million Huguenots in France with more than 2,000 churches. Where did these Huguenots come from? All right, we're going to get to all this. I know it's going to start out slow right now. It might sound a little boring, but you're going to see all this. It's going to start making sense. Now, it says here, this book, The Huguenots, Their Settlements, Churches, and Industries in England and Ireland by Samuel Smiles, LLD. All right, sixth edition. This is from 1889. And this image on the left is basically the massacre of St. Bartholomew. Those who have studied or if you study the Huguenot history, that was one of their infamous days where they got massacred, right? Because they had to convert or leave. You know, they weren't tolerating Protestantism and where they were. So that's what happened. You're going to see that resembles somebody in history too, right? So it says the refugees thus found themselves exposed to an Anglican persecution. So they're talking about the Huguenots instead of a papal one. Rather than endured, several thousands of them left the country, abandoning their new homes, and in again risking the loss of everything in preference to giving up their views as to religion. I also remember it wasn't so religion. About 140 families emigrated from Norwich into Holland, where the Dutch received them hospitably. All right, so they went to all the way to Holland, right? These Huguenots from France, and these Dutch people received them with no problem. We're going to see why too, why they received them with no problem, and gave them house accommodation free house accommodation. Why would they just do that? With exemption from taxes for 7 years. You don't even have to pay taxes for 7 years, Huguenots, during which they instructed the natives in the woolen manufacture of which they had begun before being ignorant. But the greater number of the exiles emigrated with their families to North America. Again, but no, they didn't end up in anywhere else. But the greater number, the majority of these Huguenots, exiles, so-called Huguenots, emigrated with their families to North America here. They came here to your land, your ancestors' land. They came here, America, and swelled the numbers of the little colony already formed in Massachusetts Bay, which eventually laid the foundation of the New England states. All right, so we already got one account of them being in Massachusetts, right? So they were here from the beginning, right, with the Pilgrims and all that. On arriving in Brandenburg, the immigrants proceeded to establish their colonies throughout the electorate. Nearly every large town in Prussia had its French church and one more French pastors. The celebrated Ancillon was pastor of the church at Berlin, and many of the Protestant gentry resorted thither, attracted by his reputation. The Huguenot immigration into Prussia consisted of soldiers, gentlemen, men of letters, and artists, traders, manufacturers, and laborers. Numerous other bodies of the refugees settled in the smaller states of Germany and Denmark and Sweden and even Russia. All right, so far you're keeping track. They're all over the place, these Huguenots. All right, appreciate the love, everybody, and the support and the donations very much. Others crossed the ocean and founded settlements abroad in Dutch Suriname. Where? In Dutch Suriname, America, Suriname. Dutch, they call it Dutch Suriname, that's South America. At the Cape, all right, that's, I believe, in Cape Horn in South Africa, and in the United States of America.
At Noble Gold Investments, we protect our clients' financial futures by giving them a safe and easy way.
States of America, in the colonies, all right? The settlement formed at the Cape of Good Hope was of considerable importance. It was led by a nephew of Admiral Duquesne and included members of some of the most distinguished families of France: Duplessis, de Mornay, Roubaix, de La Fontaine, de Chavannes, de Villiers, de Pré, Leroux, and Roux, and it keeps going. These names, in everywhere they went, all these French names eventually were changed into the country they went to. Like if they went to well, they were coming from Spain, and you know, they would change. They were going to Germany, they would change a little bit and alter the name, but it's the same people, it's the same family, right? It's just now they're all of a sudden Dutch, they're all of a sudden German, now they're Russian, now they're Swiss, right? 200-300 years later. All right, so it says other settlements were established in the state of New York, at Albany, under their patron Van Rensselaer, and at Manhattan, where they were joined by a body of persecuted Vandals from the south of France. At New Rochelle, also in Westchester County, another settlement was formed, which long continued to flourish among the descendants of these emigrants, where the celebrated families of J and De Lancey, well known in the political history of the United States, all right? These people are well known people. They're Huguenots. In Massachusetts, they formed several settlements in the celebrated Faneuil Hall at Boston. All right, if anybody's from New England or Boston, even I grew up in Boston, I know what Faneuil Hall is. There's this historic building right in the middle of downtown Boston, supposed to be really old from those colonial times. Like if you don't really study, you don't really pay attention to it, but it's historic. All right, it's one of those revolution plays, and where all these people met, and a very famous landmark. But they're letting us know that this was a Huguenot place where the plea for national independence was so early heard was the gift of the son of a refugee. Worcester in the same state was originally a Huguenot colony. All right, Worcester, Massachusetts. That's a Huguenot colony. Who's these Huguenots? We're going to get to that. In Maryland and Virginia, other settlements were formed. And from the Mauries and Fontainis of the latter states, some of the best blood of America has come. What do you mean, some of the best blood of America? So, like what I was saying earlier about the names changing. So Fontaines in Spain, it would be like something like De La Fuente of the Fontaines, of the Fontaine family, De La Fuente, De La Fontaines. All right. South Carolina was even styled the home of the Huguenots. Nearly 1,000 fugitives having reached it from the ports of Holland alone. There they formed three colonies at Charleston, at Santee, and Orange Quarter at the Cooper River. The first pastor of the Huguenot church at Charleston was Elias Prelew, a descendant of Antoine Preloy, Doge of Venice in 1618. From the French settlers in Carolina have come the Ravenels, Fravesans, the Peronus, the Laurens, the Nevilles, the Boudinots, the Manigaults, the Marians, the Garis, the Hugers, the Gaylors, the Benorts, the Bayers, Dupreys, Chevaliers, like Chevrolet, Chevaliers, right? And many illustrious Americans, many illustrious Americans. All right, we're going to see how many. But Holland and England constituted the principal asylums of the exiled Huguenots. Holland in the first instance and England in the next, many of these refugees passing from the one country into the other in the course of the great political movement which followed up close upon the revocation of the Edict of Nantes. All right, we're going to hear a lot about this Edict of Nantes. If you've never heard about it, it's when these French people, Huguenot people, were kicked out of France. They didn't tolerate Protestantism anymore, and they made an edict to remove them or make them convert by force. All right, so they had to either convert by force and live horribly there, or leave. All right, so that's what the Edict of Nantes is. And again, so many of these people ended up in Holland. They're telling you right now, and England. So remember that. So 200-300 years later, when they come to the colonies, or even 50 years later, when they come into the colonies, you know, they're being labeled English or Dutch Holland, but they're really French Huguenots. All right, get what I'm saying? So we're gonna see a lot of this as we go. So there was also a large number of destitute landed gentry, professional men and pastors to whom the earnings of a livelihood was extremely difficult. And these also had to be relieved out of the fund. From the first report of the French Relief Committee, dated December 1687, that is, only 14 months after the revocation, appears that 15,500 refugees had been relieved in the course of the year. Of these, says Weiss, 13,050 were settled in London. All right, so all over the place. 600 of them, for whom it could not find employment in England, were sent at its cost to America. America. They were just sent to America. Sent how? Remember, they had to pay their way. They weren't just getting free rides, and the only way they were able to do that is through indentured servitude. They had to work their way 7 years most of the time, from 4 to 7 years, to gain their freedom again, and maybe possibly they can own land too and be wealthy, unless they were already coming with a deal that they would have land granted to them and their own indentured servants through some deals they made, you know, depending on their status, right, where they were coming from, if they had money too. Now, I'm going to read this book. It says Archives Internationals de Historia de Indies, all right? International Archives of the History of Ideas. It says the Huguenot Connection, the Edict of Nantes, is revocation and early French migration to South Carolina, right? Between 1675 and 1690, from 150,000 to 200,000 Huguenots fled their native France to escape Louis the 14th 14th final attempt to extirpate Protestantism from his lands. These refugees initially settled in the nearest Protestant sanctuaries available to them, namely Geneva, Brandenburg Hesse, the Netherlands, and England. But as prospects dimmed for return to France, many sought new homes for a permanent exile. The second migration took Huguenot refugees far from their native France and Europe to places as remote as South Africa, Russia, and South Carolina. In these new and permanent homes, the Huguenot refugees and their descendants experienced significant cultural and religious changes. Some of these alterations proved to be relatively innocuous. French weavers, chamois dressers, and silversmiths became, for example, American or British farmers. Again, pay attention when I'm telling you right here. French weavers, right? All these people, silversmiths, they became what? American or British farmers. All of a sudden, they were different people in history. Why? We'll see why. But other changes proved more problematic. Huguenots who left France to preserve their religious tradition became Anglicans. Now remember, Huguenot is more of a political term, not a religious. We just got the etymology. All right, so dodge the hijack. Presbyterians, I says they became, so look at this. Huguenots who left France to preserve their religious tradition became Anglicans, Presbyterians, and even Baptists. All right, what you guys know about Presbyterians and Baptists and Anglicans? What do you guys know about that? These Huguenots, right? So why are these Huguenots becoming all these other religions or denominations? Men and women who had fled religious persecution profited from a slavery that victimized others. Hear that? Men and women who had fled religious persecution profited from slavery that victimized others. These same Huguenots eventually had slaves. It is possible that the commemoration of the revocation of the Edict of Nantes will stimulate a scholarship that makes sense of these and other anomalies in the history of French Protestantism. All right, so it's an anomaly because they're switching up. They keep switching up. Why are they doing all that? Understanding the revocation and the Huguenot migration to South Carolina lives up a remarkable coherence in the past, even amidst wrenching persecution and significant social and religious change. The revocation was more than a catalyst for Huguenot flight from France. It predicted the very character of Huguenot migration into South Carolina. In turn, the Huguenot migration and fate of its participants reflected more than European exigencies or American opportunity. They bespoke processes of change and alteration that, after the revocation, overtook French Protestantism everywhere. All right, so changes, processes of change. In short, the revocation, diaspora, and assimilation were not discrete, isolated events. They were consecutive scenes in a major historical drama that historians long ago named Le Refuge. That's what they named as refuge, refugees, the Le Refuge, the famous Le Refuge, when the Huguenots, but to which they are only now given sustained attention. All right, on the surface of the revocation appears to have been a remarkably simple event. On 17 October 1685, Louis XIV revoked the Edicts of Nantes issued by Henry IV in 1598 to grant privileges to worship to Protestants. The result was an exodus from France of about 160,000 Frenchmen, women, and children. Now, there's other scholars who have said millions, 800,000, 500, different numbers. So they don't really know the numbers. This would have been a massive exodus, even in modern times. All right, a massive exodus of Huguenots. Who's these Huguenots? All right, in fact, it was the largest population movement in early modern Europe, aside from the expulsion of the Moors from Spain. Aside from the expulsion of the Moors, so they share something. It's similar, just like the expulsion of the Moors from Spain. And it was all the more remarkable in the face of crude transportation and a social milieu the limited population mobility for most people to relatively constricted regional movement. And one love to the chat. I hope you guys, I know it gets slow, it starts so slow, but you guys are gonna be shocked later. We'll see. I got some good info right here, as long as we keep going. All right, it says changes already embedded in the exodus from France quickly extended into the diaspora and directly touched the Huguenot emigration to South Carolina. With the help of demography, we can now see what contemporaries may not have noticed, that the Huguenots who came to South Carolina and probably Russia, South Africa, and other British colonies in North America, all right, other British colonies in North America, were not representative of the Huguenot population that fled France. This is most obviously demonstrated in immigrants' ages. Extrapolations based on the well-known 1697 list of adult applicants for South Carolina subjectship revealed that two-thirds of the refugees' children were born in South Carolina. Less than a fifth were born in France, and fewer than a twelfth were born in the European exile centers. The same pattern held true of the refugee community at New Rochelle, New York, where a 1698 census allows us to document the refugees' actual ages, and probably also at the Narragansett settlement in Rhode Island. All right, so Huguenots all over these places, right? There's also indigenous people in these places, right? Okay. They point out major differences between Huguenot immigrants in America and refugees remaining in Europe. In short, the Huguenots who came to South Carolina composed a self-selected subgroup within the larger Exodus population, something historians now call a cohort, distinguished chiefly by its relative youth. The Exodus. It says, yet the Carolina refugees also were pursuing another occupation, farming. While they used traditional trade and merchant terms to describe themselves in their 1697 naturalization petition, many of the same refugees also were obtaining land in utterly astonishing quantities. All right, so these Huguenot refugees were getting land. We're going to see how much land and what influence they had and who these people were. All right, it's going to mean something. This is very important. All right, they were getting what? Astonishing quantities of land. Whose land? Whose land are they getting? The South Carolina land records only describe property dispensed through direct government sale or distributed as inducements to important servants and slaves. They ignore the burgeoning market of private sales. Still, the colony's land records alone reveal that by 1700, Huguenots had acquired at least 36,000 acres of land from the government, most of this necessarily given to first-generation refugees. In the next decade alone, they and their descendants acquired yet another 68,000 acres from the government. By 1710, then scarcely 30 years after their first arrival in the colony, Huguenot immigrants. Hold on, let me just copy this. Okay, get somebody in here. Had acquired more than 104 acres through government sale and distribution. So you see all the land that these people are getting, right? And how did they get all this land all of a sudden? Remember, so we know the indenture service system, it was through land grants. So these people were being held, right, to just settle here, just like that. All right, just bear with me. All right, so it says this astonishing Huguenot record makes the better known New England and Pennsylvania land acquisitions patterns pale by comparison. Historians often explain settlement involves these more northerly areas by the lure of land. In fact, South Carolina easily outstrips, sorry, its northern counterparts in its distribution of land to European immigrants. The English settlers who acquired land in 17th century New England or Pennsylvania before 1720 averaged less than an eighth of the 710 acres obtained by Huguenot immigrants in South Carolina. Even the largest New England and early Pennsylvania farmers usually acquired only 300 or so acres of, and says, in addition, and somewhat surprisingly, Huguenot refugees themselves seem to have pursued land holdings more aggressively than did their Puritan and Quaker contemporaries. Certainly, some refugees acquired very little land. Isaac Vary and Isaac Remeth each received only 100 acres of land in 1694, in 1696 and obtained no more land from the government in the next decade. Sorry, I'm trying to get somebody in here. Just bear with me. All right. But others acquired enormous amounts of land. Powerful entrepreneurs like John Gaylord, Philip Gendron obtained between 3,700 and 4,300 acres, respectively, and appeared to have possessed sufficient capital to make much of it productive. All right, so these guys were coming here and getting land. They were being, very successful. They don't seem like they were going through the whole hardship like as other and Europeans were going through as in their indentured servitude and all that. It was breadth rather than the all too typical inequality of landholding that made the Huguenot record so remarkable in South Carolina. Virtually every Huguenot male known to be in Carolina in the 1690s received at least some land, 5,100 acres. So all these Huguenots were getting land. By 1710, a judgment made only on government land grant records. In contrast, New England Puritans often accepted increasingly restrictive land distribution policies. Well into the early 18th century, as the historian Philip Graven has demonstrated, men in Andover, Massachusetts, in their 50s and 60s obtained land only through inheritance from fathers who proved notoriously long lived. They did not force town authorities to sell land to them or buy it elsewhere. Moreover, neither English, Welsh, Scottish, nor German immigrants in Pennsylvania ever matched the landholding record found among Huguenots in South Carolina, however appealing William Penn's promotional rhetoric. All right, so these Huguenots, are you starting to see? We just got one more in this book. It says widespread Huguenot ownership of land in South Carolina soon produced dramatic changes in the refugees' economic and cultural life. One of the less traumatic changes involved the disappearance of traditional Huguenot trades after 1700. All right, these traditional Huguenot trades, right? They're talking about how they used to be the merchants of silk. They used to sell this because there are specific people in Europe in their history who was selling silk, who was the ones in the merchants and the commerce. All right, remember we did our Sumerian videos and our Sephardi videos and how they were involved somehow through commerce, or even from way back. All right, so I'm just telling you that so you can understand. These same people had these kind of occupations in Europe. They were even considered gypsies at some time. They were migrants all the time, right? They were being kicked out of specific places for a lot of times, so they would have to do other things, right? So they became here's here, let me see. The rich, complex occupational identifications that appeared on the 1697 naturalization petition soon gave way to a ubiquitous designation typical of all European settlers in the colony: planter. All right, so they let go of what they used to be or do, and they just became what? Plantation masters, planters. All right, they were basically getting their own plantations. By the 1720s and even as early as 1710, Huguenots, after Huguenots called, let me see, sorry, somebody's coming in, no longer used the traditional French occupational classifications to identify themselves. All right. Little evidence suggests that they eschewed their old occupations deliberately, although evidence on these matters is extremely thin. It does suggest that Huguenots used their old skills when it was desirable. All right. So what they're letting us know there is that, they all of a sudden was changing their whole way when they came to America, right? They kept telling you assimilation. All right. Now, this article is called The Establishment of the Huguenots in Virginia. I'm just going to keep reading a little bit more of this history real quick. This is by Mary Wilson Bonahan Land, College of William and Mary, Arts and Sciences. All right. Now, it says here, before giving an account of the chief events relative to Huguenot history through the period leading up to the revocation of Edict of Nantes, and may be well to offer here some explanation concerning the origin of the term Huguenot, which was first used about 1560. All right. Authorities have found it impossible to determine the true origin, right? So they don't really know the origin. They can't tell you, oh, Huguenot means this or that, and it's just some Christians. They don't, they're just making stuff up right there. All right, because they've been trying to find the origin of this appellation, and many theories have been advanced and explanation. All right. In the etymological dictionary of Cledad, we find that Huguenot is a deformation, the aligned Huygennessen, confederaries, modeled Petrur, and it goes on. It says the formation of Huguenot from Eigengenossen or Hugenot, Huygensgenossen seems to have first place among many explanations offered. As there was a party in Geneva at the time known by that name, it seems plausible that the French Protestants would have used the same term. Now, I was like, what does this mean? So, eight King Nosen, again, just want to make sure, Confederates. We got the etymology earlier, Confederates, right? And I actually got it in a Spanish Wikipedia, and I wanted to translate it. And it says, Eigengonsenschaft is a German word that means confederation. The term can be literally translated as an oath of camaraderie, right? And Eidgenossenschaft is a confederation of equals, which can be individuals or groups like states, formed by a covenant sealed with a solemn oath, all right? Such alliances can be limited in time or eternal, all right? They can be eternal, meaning it's still going on today, ladies and gentlemen. An important characteristic is that the parties are always considered equal, unlike the feudal society's oath of fidelity with their strict hierarchies, all right? So, what are these Huguenots really? What are they letting us know here? What does this mean? What does this mean? It says here Huguenots, a name which the French Protestants are often designated. Its etymology is uncertain, they say. According to some, the word is popular corruption of the German Eidgenossen, conspirators, conspirators, confederates. All right, conspirators, confederates, which was used at Geneva to designate the champions of liberty and of union with the Swiss Confederation, as distinguished from those who were in favor of the submission of Duke of Savoy. The close connection of the Protestants with Geneva in the time of Calvin might have caused the name to be given to them a little before the year 1550 under the form Eigenot or Eignot, which became Huguenot. Huguenot. All right, you see how it be changing? All right, so under the influence of Hughes, Besançon Hughes being one of their chiefs, he was one of their Hughes or conspirators, right? Others have named after Hugon, a Count of Tours. All right, so they're trying to give us a whole explanation. This is from the New Advent online dictionary, the Catholic Encyclopedia. All right, so now real quick, just want to show this book. All right, let me just. All right, so it's the Huguenot. It says Bartholomew, Huguenot Bartholomew Dupuy and his descendants. All right, by Reverend B.H. Dupuy. And down here it says, they declare their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, Numbers 118. They're using a Bible verse here. All right. So we got Kiowa in the house. Hey, Kiowa, can you hear me? How you doing?
Good. How you, brother? How you?
Good, good. So we're just going over this Huguenot info. Make anytime you want to give any input, just let me know. We're just going through the basics right now before we get to the juicy stuff,
All right.
All right. So in this book,
Rocket.
All right. In this book, in the introduction, it says the rise and progress of the Huguenots, origin of the term Huguenot. The term Huguenot was originally a designation given about the middle of the 16th century to the Reformed or Calvinists of France. All right, we already got those definitions. You mean a return of the order, the old ways, the order? All right, taking over, a changing of something. The origin of the word is involved in great obscurity. It's very obscure. They don't want you to know what it means, but then they tell us what it means, right? Professor Mann, the distinguished German philologist, all right, distinguished philologist of Berlin, has given no less than 15 explanations of its supposed abbreviation. The three most plausible need only be mentioned. It has been derived from a faulty pronunciation of the German Eidgenossen, Confederates, Confederates who were called Ignots, a term applied to the Patriotic Party of Geneva, who maintained themselves in the connection with French Protestants against the tyrannical attempts at Charles III, Duke of Savoy. They were trying to take over his kingdom. This was a favorite explanation of the origin of the word with those writers who represented the Huguenots as secret conspirators against the crown. Man, why were they doing that to the Huguenots? Poor Huguenots. Why did they kill? Yeah.
You know they know how to blend in and all that good stuff. So
Okay, yeah, well, we got that earlier that they were assimilating. They had to assimilate, I guess, supposedly because of their religious persecution.
Yeah, they true chameleons.
Yeah. So we're gonna go back to the article we were reading earlier, basically where it was explaining the establishment of the Huguenots in Virginia.
Yo, Fetty in the building. On this DJ Intellect track. Yeah. Shout out to all my partners. All my players. All my hustlers. All my niggas getting money. Salute.
I was told not to love or free. I was taught to be a player.
Never be slipping on the streets. Hustle hard about your paper. Never run from your enemies. If it's fate, you gotta take 'em. Looking back on my history, so many RIPs, I'm so glad I made it. Let's toast to the moment. Words spoke for your enjoyment. Let it soak, revive the dormant. Pigeons on the perch, so let's ridicule the stools. Find me in the search by putting Fetty in your Google. Is they ready for the 1-2 microphone check? No spaghetti. It could be period. That's a player's chill. Old school lesson. We can foreplay a bit before we get to section. I'm Danny Glover, lethal weapon. Life is a mother, but I'll never hit ejection. Ike like Turner, out of space, I'm George Jetson. Posted at the Turner with a drinking medication. I was told not to love a freak. I was taught to be a player. Never be slipping on the streets. Hustle hard about your paper. Never run from your enemies. If it's fate, you gotta take 'em. Looking back on my history, so many RIPs, I'm so glad I made it. Focused on the come up, so my mind is never vacant. Hustle till the sun up, forever paper chasing, don't get caught up in the matrix. I'm the one that she thought of when she thought of making changes. For being famous, they already know my name, kid. Never been the plaintiff, only the defendant. Steady trying to tame us, but we always on some ape shit. Almost like they wanna draw after cases. You'll never see my name on affidavits. Since day one, been the same, running with the players. So in love with the cheddar, I'm planning an engagement. Steady clutching on a payment. I was told not to love a freak. I was taught to be a player. Never be slipping on the streets. Hustle hard about your paper. Never run from your enemies. If it's made, you gotta take 'em. Looking back on my history, so many RIPs, I'm so glad I made it.
Hey man, like for real. It's like some real ass shit, you know what I'm saying? This ain't no stories a motherfucker done made up, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really glad I could share this shit with y'all, you know what I'm saying? Been many fucking times that I didn't think I was gonna be here. Spit these words, you know what I'm saying? So, I hope y'all enjoy this shit, you feel me? Salute.
Oh my God!
That's the way you like. You gotta keep it pushing through the pain and strife. I came from the bottom, now I'm at the top. Like we say, I had to keep on dreaming, now I can't be stopped. Not a game, growing hate, making moves, paying dues. I refuse. You do you?
I got a rack in my pocket and a in my pants. It's the boogie man effect. Yeah, I'm all through the town. A domino effect. I watch them all lay down. And I put it in my system and I spit it on the victim. I bring it back to the block. And it's still short town. Run the ball to my hit the ground. Yeah, I'm moving that full throttle. And I'm riding on smash. I ain't got no brakes, so I'm coming with the gas. Light a match, spit fire. Yeah, I got that danger mouth. Can you feel it through those speakers? Yeah, I'm off the meter. Tracks drop the beat and hit the streets with a heater. And I got it for cheap. I'm just doing the stunt, man. High siding through the city, yeah, the boogie man. 1, 2, 3, can you see this? It's not easy. 1, 2, 3. I got a rack in my pocket and a in my pants. Walking around politicians, watch them do the rain dance. 1, 2, 3, can you see this? It's not easy. 1, 2, 3. I got a rack in my pocket and a in my pants. Walking around politicians, watch them do the rain dance. I do the boss man dance all across the land, make them shake like they got the killer ants in their pants. When you see me in the club, put your hands in the air. Yeah, I don't wait in line, I got status like the mayor, and I'm a rap store. I'm fresh off tour. I'm out in Las Vegas. Lil' mama money maker, no, she not insecure. MGM brand, I'm like 28th floor. I'm doing the Superman while I'm digging at them tools. Bottle popping on the throne, and I ain't seen bad broads like this back at home. I'm like 20/20 vision, and you still can't see me. I'm like maniac pimp, and it's way too breezy. 1, 2, 3, can you see this? It's not easy. 1, 2, 3. I got a rack in my pocket and a in my pants. Walking around politicians, watch them do the rain dance. 1, 2, 3, can you see this? It's not easy. 1, 2, 3. I got a rack in my pocket and a in my pants. Walking around politicians, watch them do the rain dance. I'm trying to have my money long like John Madden. I'm 05, I'm 06, I'm 07. I'm 08, I'm 09, I'm on the ground. I hit the end zone and I two-step like prime time. I'm about to get mine and get a lottery ticket. Yeah, I did it, I make it kick from the block to the office doing corporate biz. And yeah, I made my quota. Only in America I hustle hard like John King, the show promoter. Roll them over, get the cold shoulder, push the button on them, get that game is all over, move over. Can you see me? I'm too greasy on TV. Count with me, I'm like 1, 2, 3. Can you see this? It's not easy. 1, 2, 3. I got a rack in my pocket and a in my pants. Walking around politicians, watch them do the rain dance. 1, 2, 3. Can you see this? It's not easy. 1, 2, 3. I got a rack in my pocket and a in my pants. Walking around politicians, watch them do the rain dance.